subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Is not very effective. Seeing that it was about to be time for the report, Osborne became more and more anxious. Perhaps it was really the road to the sky, and a soldier ran in through the door. "Captain Osborne, there's a discovery." The soldier's tone was also full of joy, and he followed Osborne's spicy food. And if he fell, his men would not have good time. "Is there any news about the Arthur pirates?" "Where are they?" Hearing the good news, Osborne instantly came to his senses. "Captain, there is indeed news, the Arthur pirates." The soldier swallowed as he spoke, and he choked on the exhaustion of his journey. "The brothers in charge of the patrol said that the person who saw your portrait of us on a large ship should be the Arthur pirates that His Royal Highness the Prince is looking for." After a 2-second break, under Osborne's anxious gaze, the soldier uttered all he knew. "What are you talking about? Patrol? Is it in the harbor?" "The only patrols are in the city and around the harbor." If it was in the city, he would have known the news a long time ago, so there was only one answer. "Yes, it's in the harbor. They're coming this way." There was something strange in the soldier's tone. The auction of their Royal Highness the Prince was ransacked, and if they didn't run far away, they would even send it to the door automatically. Great. Now it's finally time to explain. Osborne didn't care why the pirate had fallen into the trap. He just knew that his life had been saved. "Go. Come with me to meet our savior." The sorrow was swept away, and Osborne walked out with a sinister smile on his face. No matter how much trouble is made outside, when it comes to their territory, the dragon must be coiled, and the tiger must lie down for him. Heading to the port, I saw the striking ship from afar. Cut. As a pirate, he actually sat on such a beautiful ship. Seeing Hyperion, Osborne's face was envious and jealous, and then his eyes rolled, and he instantly had a plan. "If you donate this ship to His Royal Highness the Prince, you may even get a compliment." But when you think that the Arthur pirates once dealt with the Navy and are now safe and sound, they must be very strong, and everything must be done carefully. So Osborne stopped Arthur in their ship with the royal emblem, and spoke in a very polite tone. "It's Arthur Alexander." Osborne stepped forward and shouted. Lang Lang's voice was transmitted, making the passing ships can't help but look sideways. "I am." Arthur was a little puzzled in his heart. Why did someone come to pick him up when he just came here? "Great, His Royal Highness the Prince of my family has an invitation." Hearing this answer, Arthur was even more puzzled. He came to this world, but he did not know any princes or other characters. "Your prince invited me." Arthur repeated again uncertainly. "Yes, His Highness Mandap, heard of your arrival and asked me to be here to greet you." Osborne's posture is very low now, but he is sneering in his heart. As long as this group of people is deceived into their base camp, it is not up to them to decide whether to kill or scrape. When the time comes, "Captain, when did you meet His Royal Highness the Prince?" Not only May, but even Rita was confused. Rita can be said to have been by Arthur's side all the time, and has never heard of any princes or anything like that. "I guess you know more about my affairs than I do." Arthur shook his head. "So, Captain, do we need to take a look?" Let's go. There's nothing to do anyway." Having received Arthur's answer, Osborne immediately opened the way ahead. "Tut tut. I was invited by His Royal Highness the Prince just after I arrived. What kind of big man is here?" "Big shot. If it's really a big shot, His Royal Highness the Prince will personally invite him. How can he only send one guard?" "Speaking of which, I've heard some gossip. I sent the 2 ships one after the other to leave, and the people around me were talking." Docking Hyperion to the shore, the group finally set foot on the land. "Captain, I don't think they're very friendly." 2 groups of soldiers surrounded Arthur and the 3, armed with weapons, silent, as if escorting prisoners. "Let's wait and see what tricks they're up to." This gesture is not at all like welcoming guests, and Arthur is absolutely confident that he can solve any problem anyway. He walked forward in silence, and what he saw on the road made Arthur's brow furrow slightly. In the endless flow of people, the awe is clearly divided into 2 groups. Some were brightly dressed and had rich faces, while others were ragged and had yellow complexions, as if they hadn't eaten for a long time. If he only saw 1 or 2 cases, Arthur didn't care, but he accounted for the vast majority along the way. The ragged men saw the guards walking by, and one by one they were afraid to avoid them, and the panic in their eyes could be felt. These people are likely to be abused for a long time. However, at this moment, on the way forward, a little girl walked forward slowly, and on the side of the road, a woman rushed to the little girl with a frightened face. In the face of this scene, the soldiers' pace of progress did not stop, but the spears in the hands of the most front group of soldiers stabbed forward. If this continues, it is expected that in a few seconds, the little girl and the woman will be pierced by the spear. Seeing such a scene, the pedestrians on the side of the road also formed 2 groups. Standing there in bright clothes, with an expression of watching a play, it seemed that he was still expecting something in his eyes. And those people in rags couldn't help but turn their heads one by one, with sympathy and unbearability in their eyes, and a feeling of sadness emanating from them. And at this moment, may move Kaido. They're interns with the Rocks Pirates, and I know that, of course. But there are only a few people in the entire Rocks Pirates, so they can only take out what they know and talk about it, and they will not be described in detail. Moreover, the Rocks Pirates are all strong people, and although they are interns, their strength is naturally not low. Chapter 55, seeing a mother and daughter standing in the way in front of him, Osborne, who was walking in the forefront, didn't say anything, as if they didn't exist. Hold your head high and stride forward. Brush, brush, brush. The spears of the guards on both sides stabbed forward, their heads shining brightly in the sunlight. The pace was firm, and there was no pity in his eyes, as if it was not the first time he had done such a thing. The women finally held their children before the army arrived, but that was all there was to it, and it was impossible to leave. The ending was already predictable, and the woman only hugged her daughter tightly and buried her head in her arms, giving her the last shred of warmth in the world. The spear is getting closer. At this moment, the expressions on everyone's faces expressed the truest thoughts in their hearts. There are those who are excited. There are those who are looking forward to it. There are those who are pitiful. There are those who are sympathetic. There are those who are numb, and so on. Brush! A sword swept by, and the spear that was about to touch the woman broke at the waist. Don't you see anyone in front of you? Mei appeared in front of the woman, who fell to her knees, looking at Osborne in front of her with cold eyes. From the moment she entered the country, Mei felt a little weird. The people here are so distinct, as if people from 2 worlds have forcibly merged together. You mean people? Osborne was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then couldn't help but laugh. Even the faces of the rich people around him couldn't help but show a playful look, and the corresponding poor people looked even more depressed. Ha ha ha, outsiders in this world. As long as you have money, you can have everything you want, and without money, then his status is no different from that of a slave, and he is not worthy of being called a human being. Osborne said as he walked in front of the mother and daughter, bent over, a smile on his face, and asked, "Who made you live on this land?" He is the king of Mauritius." The woman glanced at Osborne with some trepidation and whispered in a trembling voice, "Who gave you food so that you could survive?" The smile on Osborne's face was not only a little thicker. "It's the king of Mauritius." The woman replied again, "Now that we are working for the great king, and you, who have received all the favor of the king, stand in our way and delay the king's business, what do you think we should do?" Osborne's eyes narrowed slightly, and there was oppression in his tone. The woman's lips trembled and tears flowed down her face, but she could not say the words that followed. "Your daughter is so cute." Osborne raised his hand and grabbed the child in the woman's arms. But the woman clung to one and turned to dodge, which made Osborne's eyes cold slightly. The woman, apparently aware that her actions would annoy Osborne, immediately fell to her knees. "I beg you to let my daughter go, and to stand in the way of the adults, and I am willing to die to atone for her sins." Loud cries rang out through the streets. This kind of cry of sadness and tears of the seer really can't impress those who have a look of watching the play in their eyes. "You said you were willing to die to atone for your sins, right?" As Osborne said this, his eyes glanced at Mei. Yes, as long as I let my daughter go, I will. The woman's voice was very urgent, and repeated begging for death was now her only wish. As you see, it's not that I want to kill her, it's that she's bent on dying, and as His Majesty's loyal guard, we can only try to meet any demands of the people. Osborne straightened up, and his righteous and awe-inspiring look made the anger in Mei Yi's eyes in front of him even stronger. His eyes swept over the people around him one by one, and panic and fear appeared on their faces. Captain, Mei Yi's eyes looked at Arthur, waiting for his decision. Didn't you say that His Royal Highness the Prince is waiting for us? Is it really good to delay here all the time? The mother and daughter didn't mean it, so let them go. Arthur came to Osborne and unleashed a hint of overlord-colored power. In such a situation, if it were according to the past, Osborne would definitely kill the two people who blocked the way, just enough to deter these pirates, but seeing Arthur's gaze, a feeling of fear enveloped him, and his brain stopped thinking and couldn't refute what he said. The feeling was fleeting, but it made Osborne cold. It took a long time for his mind to recover a little, and he took a few steps back, the expression on his face gloomy and uncertain. You two are lucky today. Get out of here." Hearing Osborne's words, the woman kneeling on the ground nodded her head in thanks and left with the child in her arms. The eyes of the surrounding pedestrians couldn't help but fall on Arthur, and they all guessed the identity of the person in front of them. One sentence can make Osborne change his mind, and it must be a big deal. "A few distinguished guests, please don't let His Royal Highness the Prince wait." His Royal Highness the Prince said that he would definitely entertain you well. The fear in Osborne's heart gradually turned to anger, and the expression on his face lost the hypocrisy it had at the beginning. "Yes, then lead the way. I can't wait to meet His Royal Highness. Rita, the two of you go around, and the palace will meet in a moment," Arthur said, winking at Rita and May. "Okay, Captain." The two men nodded and were about to turn to leave, but the guards around them flashed their weapons. "What is this for?" A playful smile appeared on Arthur's lips. "It's really impatient to expose your intentions so quickly. I was a little confused before, but now I know for sure. These people weren't very friendly to him." Although Arthur still didn't quite understand where he had offended the prince. "Since we are guests, it is better to be honest when we come to the host's place and obediently follow us to see the prince, and do not have any unnecessary actions." At this time, Osborne was too lazy to pretend. In this place of 3 acres of land, his Osborne's words were the truth. But alas, Rita and May didn't pay any attention to Osborne's words. Their captain had said that they would follow his orders, no matter what difficulties lay ahead. The guard in front of him, May can easily solve it alone. Brush, brush, brush. Several cold flashes flashed, and the guards fell to the ground one after another. "Captain, you need to be careful." Rita waved at Arthur and split up with the soldier. "Go in both directions. You. Osborne didn't expect that here, these pirates would be so bold and dare to do something to him. "Don't leave you. Let's go. Take me to the prince you're talking about." A sneer curled into Arthur's lips as he looked at the palace in front of him. With Hyperion, the white dragon will naturally be recycled in the warehouse, and it is estimated that it will not appear in the future. Chapter 56 in a palatial palace. Mandap sat on his high seat and waited patiently. Not long ago, a guard came to report that the pirates who ransacked his auction were about to be brought to him. This made Mandap's mood that had been suppressed for several days be released in an instant. What a daring pirate, even daring to be presumptuous on my territory. Let you feel how terrible the price of angering this prince is today. The entire palace has been ambushed by him in the shadows, and there are even 4 of his personal guards. The personal guards here are not comparable to Osborne and the like. Each of them is a devil fruit ability, and their strength is strong. Bang! A figure smashed through the door and flew straight in, smashing straight into Mandap, who was sitting on a high seat. At this moment, a figure flashed beside him, and with a stretch of his right hand, he caught the flying figure. The burly body pinched Osborne like a chicken. "Osborne, what's going on?" Seeing Osborne like a ball, Mandap's eyes widened and he asked sharply, "Your Royal Highness," outside the door. Osborne was obviously beaten up, and his speech was a little unpleasant. "I regret it in my heart. As soon as you enter here, You shouldn't have let the surrounding guards attack Arthur. And he was beaten in vain without saying a word and did not subdue him. When Mandap heard this, a figure slowly walked in from outside the broken gate. You just want to see my royal highness? Looking at the figure sitting directly in front of him, Arthur raised his eyebrows slightly, and his gaze swept around. Although these people are very hidden, they're like open fire in the darkness under his perception of what he sees and hears. Seeing Arthur standing in front of him so aggressively, scanning his surroundings and scrupulously, he didn't look at him at all. When did Mandap, as a prince, be treated like this? Instantly angry, he slapped the armrest and shouted, "Oomph, just a pirate. Don't he kneel down when you see Prince Ben?" As soon as the words fell, the guards on both sides rushed out in an instant, surrounding Arthur. And next to Mandap, 5 people stood side by side, with a strong physique, and at first glance they were good at strength. Looks like you're pretty well prepared. Looking at the guards who surrounded him, there were 30 or 40 of them, all holding large knives, and their faces were fierce. "Take him down for me." As soon as Mandelpu gave the order, the guards immediately moved, slashing at Arthur with their broadswords raised. In the face of such an opponent, Arthur really couldn't raise the slightest interest in making a move, and with a wave of his right hand, for Titans emerged, enveloped Arthur in a square and blasted out with a huge fist. Bang! The powerful force was not at all something that these ordinary soldiers could resist, and they flew upside down in an instant, knocking down a large area. Bang, bang, bang! The Titan mecha took heavy steps, and wherever it passed, the autumn wind swept away the leaves, and in the blink of an eye, all those guards were knocked to the ground. What is this? Mandap's eyes widened as he looked at the Titans. There are still too few people in the world of pirates who have the power of science and technology, and even as a prince, they have never heard of anything like it. You guys come on. Looking at the Titan mecha standing side by side in front of Arthur, the corners of Mandip's eyes jumped slightly. Why does this comparison feel that the 5 people standing in front of him are so low? Yes, mammoth form, orangutan form, bison form. The 5 of them immediately unleash the power of their devil fruits. All of them are animal-based, and they are also mammoths, orangutans, bison, dung shells, and giant ants that represent the strength type. If the power of these devil fruits is well developed, even if it is a dominant side, it is not impossible, but bang! The Titan itself possesses great power and is naturally fearless in the face of the bombardment of power. One-on-one, the remaining one charged straight at Arthur. It has some of the characteristics of a mammoth, and its fists are covered in slender hairs. Arthur raised his right hand to get a taste of the power. Bang! Alas! Feeling the impact of this force, Arthur sighed slightly. Such a fruit is really terrible in your hands. The strength is naturally much stronger than that of ordinary people, but it is far from exerting the power that the fruit has. I'm afraid that this time in this country has already been hollowed out, and there is only an empty shelf. The power of the Titan mecha was not much different from it, but with the aid of firepower, it quickly gained the upper hand. Arthur eliminated the opponent in front of him with 3 strikes and 5 divisions, and slowly walked towards Mandap, who was sitting in a high position. You don't come here. I really didn't expect that my personal guard looked fierce and abnormal on weekdays, but at the moment he was weak like a little girl, and he was easily leveled. Seeing Arthur approaching, Mondeep wanted to retreat, but there was no way to retreat. You can't do anything to me. I am the prince of the country of Mauritius, if you dare to touch my Harry. To this day, Mandap is still threatening, and Arthur is too lazy to listen to him, so he grabs it and throws it out. After waiting patiently for a while, Rita and May walked in from outside. "Captain, we're back." Rita glanced at the people lying on the ground and walked towards Arthur. "How's it going?" Letting Rita and May go around before, naturally it was not just a simple turnaround, but to find out the news. Entering this country is like entering a colony, and Arthur cares a lot about the difference. "Captain, everything is as expected." Rita's face narrowed, and she slowly told the news he had spent. As one might have guessed, the country had long been tyrannical. The aristocracy was richer, and the commoners were poorer, living in misery for decades. Rita said and shook her head. It is precisely because of decades of oppression that those people have become somewhat numb. Captain, let's help them. It's really pitiful. Mei Yi's hands shook Arthur slightly, with a look of unbearability. Looking at the past along the way, what I saw and heard was like purgatory on Earth. Civilians get together. The place where they live is like a garbage dump, where snakes, rats, insects, and ants are often infested. And these things are rare rations for those civilians. Captain, if you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you really couldn't have imagined what it would have been. Rita's heart was filled with sighs. The world is so big that all they see is a small land. I am afraid that there will be many more people who are numb to live in an environment that never sees the light of day. Don't worry, she was touched by us, so naturally she has to take care of it. Arthur patted Mei Yi's hand and comforted softly, and stood up from his seat. Now that the country is corrupt, it is necessary to eradicate the corrupt part. Let's go to the palace and wipe out those nobles. Maybe the last few chapters have been written relatively blandly. It's been so cold these 2 days. There is no data, and I'm so panicked. Have mercy on me, because the code words are relatively slow, and there are more things during the day. So tonight will be overnight to make up for the 2 chapters missing. And there are 3 more chapters today, when to finish writing and when to sleep. So, Chapter 57, with the combined power of Arthur, Rita, Mei, and numerous titans, is only a matter of time before a country is swept away. Arthur went to the palace first in order to get to the palace once and for all. The guards fought all the way in and kidnapped the king, who is still watching the beautiful women dance. Stephen Mauritius, this is the king's full name. The king was kidnapped, and everything else was easy. The Son of Heaven ordered the princes to invite the nobles of the whole country to the palace for a grand event. The weak king, after Arthur had only made a slight threat, immediately gave an honest order. The next thing is to wait patiently. Arthur sat on the king's seat. Rita and Mei left and right, savoring the food in front of them. At the same time, 2 Titan mechs were sent to guard the door. As long as someone enters, knock out without saying a word. After half a day's effort, the entire hall was already full of richly dressed nobles. Who are you to dare to kidnap us, and do you know my identity? A nobleman who had just been tied up shouted angrily, but when he saw the situation in the hall clearly, he suddenly became dumbfounded. These are really familiar old friends. Yesterday they were still drinking together. Why? Today, suddenly, one of the figures came into view, and his mouth opened wide in shock, and he didn't close it for a long time. The king, the esteemed king, was treated the same as everyone else, and he almost didn't recognize it in the crowd. Arthur sat on his high seat and slowly shook the wine glass in front of him, drank it all before speaking. Have you arrived? If one is missing, I'll kill one of you at random, so I'll look at the answer. As soon as Arthur said this, the nobles looked around them. The nobles of a country are already very familiar with each other, and the number of people is not very large, so you can see at a glance. Seeing that no one answered, Arthur nodded, and it seemed that he had already arrived. In that case, it's time to get down to business. Arthur rose from his seat, and the nearest king suddenly spoke. As long as it can be put to me, the country's wealth is at your disposal. After a little while, the king had figured it out. This person who suddenly appeared was bold and would not let them go, and now he can only use money to tempt him, hoping to save his life. It's a tempting condition. A hint of joy appeared on the king's face, and Arthur continued. However, I can already dispose of the wealth of this country at my disposal. So what difference does it make if I let you go or not? Hearing this, the king's face turned pale, obediently waiting here for us to come back. Arthur walked to the door with Rita and Mei as he spoke, and stopped when he was about to go out. By the way, these big guys are very unkind, and I don't care if I move casually and get killed. After saying that, he left the room and went to the back treasury. Now that you're in the palace, it's a shame not to raid it. Seeing this demon leave, everyone was a little eager to try, but as soon as there was a slight move, the eyes of the Titan mecha immediately stared at it. The muzzle of the black hole makes people shudder. Until Arthur and his party returned with a full load, these nobles still did not have the courage to use their flesh and blood to carry the muzzles of these black holes. Well, yes, it's pretty good in that case. Let's go. The Titan mecha walked out of the palace with two in one hand, naturally attracting the attention of many people along the way. And those noble subordinates saw that their masters were arrested, and they came to the rescue. But that's it. Not even a punch from the Titans could stop it. Arthur ignored the commotion around him, and a mighty group of people came to the central square. It's Lord Baka. Oh my God, Lord Mork is there too. It's the kings. There was a cry of exclamation from the dense crowd around the central square. The eyes of the civilians were filled with wonder and disbelief. This kind of high-ranking figure is standing there like a tortured prisoner at this moment. Captain, what are you going to do? If these nobles were to be killed, there is no need to bring them here. Nature is to save the world, both physically and mentally. Arthur's gaze swept over the crowd around him. Even though the nobles stood motionless, looking embarrassed, the eyes of the commoners were still fearful. This fear is etched into their souls. So what Arthur had to do was to let them destroy the fear in their hearts. I'm sure you can see who is standing in front of you at this moment. Arthur's voice was not loud, but it spread, and the noise in the square gradually subsided. Do you have any resentment in your heart against these nobles who are high up and enslave you? Arthur paused for a moment after speaking. The eyes of the commoners around the square stared at the nobles standing there one by one, but they didn't dare to say a word. On the contrary, those nobles still look arrogant. If it weren't for the Titan mecha around, I'm afraid they would be even more presumptuous. Don't you have any complaints against these nobles? Seeing such a scene, mate, it was a little incomprehensible. Why do the nobles who have done the wrong thing still have a lofty posture? Why do these commoners still dare to be angry with the nobles when they are in charge? May's words still echoed around, but no one spoke. Ha ha ha, it's ridiculous. One of the nobles looked up to the sky and laughed, his eyes sweeping around. Is it that funny? Arthur looked at the nobleman in front of him, who was already in his 40s. Ridiculous, ridiculous. These untouchables only have the fate to be at our disposal. Have you ever seen whose dog will bite its owner? I advise you to let us go honestly, otherwise the consequences are not something you can bear. To this day, that nobleman is still threatening Arthur. He didn't believe anyone would dare to hurt him in the slightest. Really? Let's wait and see. The easiest way to defeat fear is to defeat it. Arthur gagged the shouting nobleman and pushed him forward, glancing around and pointing at a tall, thin man. You come here. Me. The tall and thin man looked left and right, pointed to himself, and waited for Arthur to nod accurately, and then walked over slowly. Put on your eyes. Arthur made a gesture of his right hand, and an eye patch appeared in his palm. Here, take again. Arthur handed over a long sword again. Looking at the commoner standing in front of him, blindfolded, and with a sword in both hands, the nobleman seemed to think of something and struggled all over. But under the shackles of the Titan mecha, such struggles are useless. Now you're slowly moving forward. Hearing a whisper in his ear, the man with the sword slowly stepped forward. Everyone around watched with bated breath as they watched this scene. Only the nobleman in front of the man was still struggling. Poof! The sword was sharp, piercing into the skin without any hindrance. The nobleman's eyes widened instantly. Just then, Arthur removed the man's blindfold. His vision gradually became clear, and looking at the nobleman who was close at hand, the man retreated in fright. Growing up, I have never been so close to the nobility. Then he found the long sword stuck in the nobleman's belly. The nobles are human beings just like you. Just now you just took a step forward, and that nobleman would die by your sword. A demonic whisper rang in the man's ears. The sword, it's my... The man stared blankly at his hands, and an indescribable pleasure spread throughout his body. That's right, it's you. Hold that sword now and draw it. At this moment, the man had no more thoughts and subconsciously obeyed Arthur's orders. Take a step forward, hold the sword in your hand, and draw it with a gentle force. The nobleman's face suddenly changed and blood flowed out of the wound that was not deep. Now the life of this nobleman is at your fingertips. The sound in his ears continued, and the man looked at his hands holding swords, and then at the blood that flowed from the nobleman's wounds in front of him. There was a hint of something strange in his blank eyes. Poof! With both hands stretched, the long sword plunged into the nobleman's abdomen again, this time with more force, and blood gushed outward. Compared with the nobleman, who was a little hideous because of the pain, standing in front of him, the look on the man's face became brighter. Draw your sword and push it again. Poof! Pull out, push, pull out, push, pull out, a bunch of... The movements became faster and faster. The expression on his face gradually became excited, and the corners of his mouth wore a sickly smile. And the nobleman's abdomen was stabbed like a hornet's nest, and there was no sound at this moment. Such a picture frightened the other nobles behind him, especially when a man looked at them with some crazy eyes. His whole body couldn't help but tremble. Nobles are the same as you, the same people, the same pain, the same death. At this moment, when Arthur said this sentence again, the eyes of the people around him became brighter and brighter. Take up your weapons and vent all the resentment in your hearts. Oh! As soon as Arthur's voice fell, a roar suddenly erupted in the crowd. One took a step, followed by a second, a third, a fourth. More and more people converged on the central square and gradually approached the nobles. His hands were scratching, his teeth were biting, and he was doing everything he could like a wild beast. And at this moment, Arthur, Rita, and May have already left far away. Hearing the screams coming from behind, there was no mercy in my heart. Captain, if we just walk away like this, these crazy people don't know what will happen. It's been suppressed for so long, and once it erupts, it's not surprising to do anything. That's not our business anymore. Arthur shook his head. Whether these people are crazy and self-destructive, or whether they finally come to their senses and establish a new order, it will definitely take a long transition time. Arthur didn't plan to stay here for long. Came to the port and set off again on the Hyperion. This trip, his harvest has been very rich. The next Valkyrie is about to appear, and after thinking about it, it's still Kiana, and then Bronya, and after that, Seal. Chapter 58. How much of a country's wealth is wasted by them when it comes to only 30 billion? On the deck of Hyperion, looking at the numbers displayed above the shop in front of him, Arthur shook his head speechlessly. Although 30 billion is a lot, it can only maintain daily expenses, and if there is something more beautiful in the photo, I am afraid it will be gone in an instant. Captain, this is today's morning report. Rita walked over with a newspaper, and Arthur took it and saw the contents with a slight light in his eyes. The Rocks pirate ship has been getting more and more active lately, and the Roger pirates have fought against the Navy many times. The contents of the newspaper were only briefly described, but Arthur could already guess the current trend. I'm afraid the final battle will be before long. At present, the actions of the Rocks pirates are becoming more and more reckless, and the Roger pirates are gradually revealing their hideousness, and the pressure on the Navy headquarters may be very great. At the moment, I must be racking my brains to figure out how to solve it. Just as Arthur had guessed, the Rocks pirates were in a major meeting at this time. If you want to dominate the world, you have to take the world government into your own hands. In a large, bright room, the first thing Locke said when he gathered everyone together was this. In this time, they had amassed enough wealth and gathered enough companions that Locke didn't want to wait any longer. How to do it specifically? We just hit it. Edward's brow furrowed slightly. He wasn't very keen on dominating the world. They joined the Rocks pirates because they were famous and strong enough, and they could make themselves even stronger by joining them. Edward was looking for a sense of home, but alas, he felt only deep malice on this ship. Everyone is selfish, and in order to get more wealth, cannibalism has also happened, and it is not the place he wants to stay. With the strength we have now, even if we fight directly, it's not impossible. Shiki smiled darkly, his eyes shining brightly. It's finally time to wait for this day, and he can't wait. The world government is ruled by the Draconians, and we will directly capture them, and the whole world will be ours at that time. Locke had already planned all of this, and now it was just a matter of informing him. The meeting quickly dispersed, and everyone left with their own little calculations in mind. At the stern, Kaido's gaze was fixed on the front, and what was different from his appearance was the delicacy of his mind. As an intern, Kaido's strength can only be regarded as midstream in the Rocks Pirates, so he is a little worried. After checking the information, Kaido only gradually became stronger after leaving the Rocks Pirates. So, I will correct the previous statement that it was strong. And at this time, Charlotte Lingling walked over and looked at this spiritual guy Kaido and said lightly, "If there's a big fight, follow me." Charlotte Lingling, as a giant clan, showed great strength at the age of 5, and now her strength is even more terrifying. This day means a lot to the Rocks Pirates. Everyone was thinking about the future path, but the only thing missing was the support for their captain, Locks. And in the headquarters of the Navy, Rocks Pirates, Roger Pirates, Arthur Pirates. The sea is really not calm. Cyborg sat in his chair and muttered to himself. Each of the 3 pirates is very powerful, and the Rocks Pirates are the most threatening, causing incidents everywhere and exhausting their navy. Relatively speaking, the Roger Pirates and the Arthur Pirates are more stable. Marshal of the Air. The door opened, and Carp walked in. "How's it going? Who did you go to? And what was the result?" The result of the steel bone, empty, refers to the Union. Unite with other forces to completely eliminate the Rocks Pirates. And the Roger Pirates and the Arthur Pirates are his 2 preferred targets. I've spoken to Roger, and he's agreed to join forces with us. To be honest, the speed at which Roger agreed was a bit of a surprise to Carp. With just a little mention, Roger agreed. And what about the Arthur Pirates? The strength of the Arthur Pirates is undoubted, and if they join, they will surely win. I didn't look for it. Carp is still a little resistant to the Arthur Pirates, and he doesn't think Arthur will help them in the Navy. Forget it with Roger's Pirates. The winning rate is a little bigger. As for Carp's thoughts, Steelbone Sora is naturally very clear. Well, how is he doing with Sengoku? After resting for so long, I'm not even allowed to visit. There was some urgency in Carp's tone. During this time, let alone visiting, he didn't even know where the warring states were. Don't worry, Sengoku is recovering well, and you'll be able to meet soon. Speaking of this, there was some admiration in Steel's empty tone. Really? That's great. Carp showed a hint of joy on his face, and he could finally fight side by side with Sengoku again. Captain Roger, are we really going to help the Navy? Spark finally said what he had been holding in his heart for a long time. I never thought about teaming up with the Navy to deal with pirates. Locks is too dangerous. That's all Roger answered. Spark wanted to ask something more, but was stopped by Riley next to him. The ship fell silent again. A few days later, within the Hyperion, no matter how bad luck it is, it's time to draw it this time. Arthur wanted to have his character explode, but it didn't always go his way. Tap on 10 resupplies, and 10 rays of light appear in front of you. The light was restrained, and the items inside appeared one by one, and the corners of Arthur's calm mouth slowly curled. Finally, I have arrived. On the shelves at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friends who like it support a subscription, and friends who like to raise books support a first subscription. As long as the subscription is not particularly overwhelming, it will continue to be written until the end. The last time the data was retrieved. I hope that there can be a surge in the wave, so that the heart is a little bottom. Thank you to the readers who have chased you all the way. Thank you. Chapter 59, Being in the Vast Universe. The surrounding galaxies are disillusioned, and there is a vast atmosphere. In the depths of the universe, in the unreachable place, a brilliant light flashed and appeared in front of Arthur. The light is restrained, and the items in it are revealed. Character card. Kiana Kaslana, all of the rest are character shards times 38. After all, I was not wrongly paid. With a faint smile on his face, Arthur ignored the fact that the lottery interface was reset to 0 again and immediately opened the Valkyrie warehouse. After Rita and May, a brand new character awaits his unlocking. Kiana Kaslana. As for the number of character fragments on the side, the previous and this time add up to 49. 49 30ths upgradable. Without any hesitation, Arthur immediately clicked on the upgrade. A faint light flashed, and the B-rank Valkyrie was promoted to A-rank Valkyrie. And the number of character fragments has changed accordingly. If you're lucky, you'll be able to get the 11 character shards you need in a single draw. Promoted to A-rank Valkyrie. Kiana unlocked a total of 2 pieces of armor: Saint Prayer and Valkyrie Ranger. After reviewing the character information, Arthur clicked the fight button. The white light condensed in front of him, gradually outlining the outline of a human figure. A figure emerged from the light, dressed in a black and white type Valkyrie uniform, her long white hair tied into 2 braids perpendicular to her back. Her closed eyes slowly opened. The blue eyes are as pure as emerald. The Valkyrie Kiana Kaslana came to report. Looking at Arthur in front of her, Kiana clasped her hands into fists and said loudly. But such a serious image lasted only 2 seconds, and the pursed lips immediately hooked up a smile, and the small nose sniffed lightly, looking in the direction of the kitchen, and the eyes glowed slightly. "It's so fragrant, Captain. Is this specially for me?" Seeing May, and Rita walking in front of her with delicate dishes, Kiana's eyes moved with it, and her saliva was about to flow out. "Yes, Kiana. Wow, Captain, you're so nice. I love you to death." Kiana opened her arms and hugged Arthur. But before Arthur could raise his hands, Kiana ran to the table. Looking at the dishes served one by one, he couldn't take his eyes off it, leaving only Arthur, who was still standing in place, holding his hands lightly raised, standing there awkwardly. "Captain, are you playing a sculpture?" Seeing Arthur's posture, May not only smiled, but also got in her outstretched arms and gently patted Arthur's back to express comfort. "Fortunately, you have you and May. You can make up for my wounded heart. Captain, the dishes are ready, and you can take a seat." Just then, Rita's voice came. "Yes, Captain, come here. Miss Ben can't wait to destroy the food." Kiana is holding a knife in one hand and a fork in the other, and she looks menacing, and people who don't know think she's going to fight with someone. "Let's go, matey." The 4 of them were seated, and Arthur glanced at the dishes on the table. It's still full of color and flavor. It's not like a dish, it's a delicate work of art. "All right, let's go." As soon as Arthur's words fell, Kiana immediately aimed at the food that she had been staring at for a long time. It's delicious. Am I in heaven right now?" Kiana tilted her head and chewed slowly, with an intoxicated expression. After a gust of wind swept away the clouds, the food on the plate was wiped out. "Well, Miss Ben can't eat anymore." Kiana touched her bulging belly with a satisfied expression. "You can really eat, Kiana. Be careful that you get fat. You won't be pretty by then." For Kiana's appetite, Arthur was an eye-opener today. "How can it be, Captain? Miss Ben won't get fat. She has a good training every day." For this kind of thing, Kiana has never been worried. After all, there's nothing more desirable than enjoying good food. Tell Kiana some of the situation in this world and give him a brief science popularization. "Okay, Captain." Half an hour later, a shout from Kiana came from the quiet living room. "What? Are we actually badass?" Kiana bounced off the couch and turned to look at Arthur. "Captain, why are we going to be big villains like pirates? We are righteous partners." From AE's mouth, it is known that their current identity is pirates. That is, the people in this world who often do bad things. Kiana stopped doing it in an instant. There's a price to pay to be a partner in justice. Seeing Kiana's over-reflected look, Arthur smiled. "The cost?" Kiana asked cautiously. First of all, you must abide by the rules. Go out early and return late. Report the situation to your superiors every day, and daily patrols and the like are commonplace." Arthur slowly said what he was thinking, but the more he listened to Kiana's face, the more ugly it became, and he hurriedly stopped it. Stop. What's the matter? Didn't you say that you want to be a partner in justice? It's not enough to do that. If we want to, we can go to the Navy, and I'm sure they won't refuse." Arthur has absolute confidence in this. Who would turn down some powerful people to join? But Kiana's head shook like a rattle and smiled. "I suddenly realized that the righteous partner is not so easy to be. Let's be pirates." It's a joke. Just following the rules makes Kiana uncomfortable. Not to mention the boring patrol tasks and daily reports. If daily life is so monotonous and boring, it is better to kill her. "Are you sure you're going to be a pirate?" Arthur asked again with a smile on his face. "Yes." Kiana nodded earnestly and then asked, "Is this Rock's Pirates really that strong?" For the strong, Kiana is also full of strong interest. The hegemon of the sea is not just talking, it's just a pity, Arthur said, shaking his head. What a pity. Halfway through the words, this made Kiana's heart itch. It's a pity that their hearts are not aligned, which is doomed to the future. Lox is indeed a heroic figure, powerful and ambitious, and it is normal for him to become a hegemon. But the companions he had gathered were united by interests. Such a bond cannot be destined to last long. Oh, Kiana nodded as if she didn't understand. The next step was to ask Kiana to choose a house to live in until nightfall. While Arthur was lying on the bed, still wondering why it was so quiet today, a figure approached. Captain, Rita said to have the captain check it out on the first day. In the dim light, Kiana lowered her head and slowly approached with her hands rubbing the corners of her clothes. Chapter 60. The pre-dawn darkness gradually dissipated, and a hint of whiteness appeared on the distant horizon. Cut through the darkness and bring light to the earth. On the calm sea, a white battleship slowly moved forward. It's really exciting. It's a live broadcast or something. AI-chan likes to watch it the most. In the control room, in the faint screen, Ai looked at the small screen in front of her like a thief. From time to time, there's a slurping sound coming out of the mouth. At that moment, a face slowly moved closer to the screen. AI-chan, what are you looking at? A faint voice sounded, and Ai's whole body was smart, hiding the small screen in front of her behind her back, and immediately turn around. It was found to be a kind-faced Rita. It's also something Rita does every day, coming to the control room every morning and checking on the situation around her. So as long as Rita is there, it's very reassuring, and everything will be taken care of. It turned out to be Rita, and it scared me. Ai patted her chest, looking like she was overly frightened, and slowly subsided. You were looking at something, and you heard something terrible. Hearing Rita's words, Ai instantly became vigilant and shook her head again and again. No, how could AI-chan do such a thing? You must have heard it wrong. Seeing Ai's flustered expression, the corners of Rita's mouth hooked up with a dangerous smile. AI-chan, if you take advantage of Hyperion's authority to peek at us without permission, you understand the consequences, Rita said as she flicked her right hand over the hibernate button in front of her. As long as you click this button, Ai will fall into a deep sleep. Huh? Ai looked at Rita with a pleading look. AI-chan is also out of curiosity. The first time you peeked, please don't tell the captain if it's okay, for AI-chan's sake. Ai's big eyes blink and blink, desperately selling cuteness. It's okay not to tell the captain, Rita said as she moved closer again. Copy the content into a copy of my communicator. This. Ai's eyes widened. She didn't expect Rita to put forward such a condition, and then nodded again and again. In this way, they're grasshoppers on a thread. Allies shouldn't betray allies, right? A shady deal was made on such conditions. Rita, you're still so early. When May came out of the room, she had already seen Rita working in the kitchen. It's a bit troublesome to make shrimp porridge today, so I'll do it early, Rita said, her hands moving nonstop, and she carried out all kinds of work in an orderly manner. Shrimp porridge, Rita, you really have a heart. Why do you want to make shrimp porridge, Sprouts? It is naturally very clear, and it is very beneficial to the current Kiana. This is what Rita should do. If you have the opportunity, you have to improve the recipe. After all, the captain will probably be very busy in the future, and once the physical strength and nutrition can't keep up, it will be very nerve-wracking. Now that the shrimp in your hand have been fully processed, the next step is to prepare the auxiliary materials. There are more than 10 kinds of auxiliary ingredients needed for a bowl of shrimp porridge, which will make any chef look at it and be dumbfounded. The next procedure was more cumbersome, so Manny didn't bother anymore, glanced at Arthur's room, narrowed her eyes slightly, and walked up slowly. Rita had sensed Mei Yi's movements and shook her head slightly. Women, they're really curious about this kind of thing. The room was unlocked, and it opened with a light push. Seeing the two who were still asleep, Mei Yi quietly walked over. Do you want to be together? Tu was looking at her sleeping face when she suddenly heard Arthur's voice, which startled Mei Yi. Captain, you're so bad. You don't open your eyes when you wake up, Mei said as she stretched out her little fist and slapped Arthur lightly. warm as jade. How can I be willing to wake up? Arthur's right hand gently stroked Kiana's little head, a look of aftertaste. Humph, Captain, you're still like this. Meh. I didn't know what to say and stood up half-bent. Now that you're awake, get up quickly. Rita has prepared breakfast, and a light taste could dilute the fishy smell in your mouth. After Mei finished speaking, she turned to leave and gently closed the door by the way. Captain, a soft murmur slowly spat out of Kiana's mouth. Did you wake you up, Kiana? It's still early, so I can continue to rest for a while. Kiana opened her eyes with a kitten-like laziness on her face. No, I heard that breakfast is ready. Good guys, Kiana hasn't forgotten to eat until now. But my whole body was limp, and I didn't have any strength, so the captain picked me up in his arms. Kiana said as she slowly spread her arms. Good. Arthur bought a dress from the store. After more than half an hour of washing, Arthur walked down the stairs with a lazy Kiana in his arms. I can smell it. It smells so good. A faint fragrance wafted from the table, and Kiana didn't know where she got the strength from. So she sat there in 2 steps and 3 steps. What's wrong, Kiana? Is she hurt? Seeing Kiana's wrinkled face, Mei asked with concern. It's a wound, it's okay. Kiana glared at Arthur viciously as she spoke, but was immediately attracted by the food in front of her. Who made you run so fast? And no one robbed you. Arthur sat down on the stool slowly, looking helpless. If you still say. Kiana's small mouth pursed slightly, and her little face was full of the big words, Miss Ben is very unhappy. Arthur didn't do much of this. Sure enough, after a while, Kiana began to slowly taste the shrimp porridge. From time to time, there was still admiration in his mouth. Rita, your craft is amazing. If I don't have you in the future, I'm afraid I won't be able to live. After drinking it in one gulp, Kiana came to a bowl again. Captain, Rita has something for you. When she finished eating, Rita came up to Arthur, and a light curtain shone out from the communicator on her wrist. The inside gradually reveals itself. It's how? Rita, you. At first, it was unclear, but slowly, the above display made Kiana's face crimson, and she jumped up from the sofa in an instant. Turn off the communicator. You have to ask Ai about specific things. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on her, Rita was unhurried. Inside the bridge. What are you going to do? Don't come here. Help! Someone is going to persecute a kind and lovely, beautiful girl. Seeing Kiana with a fierce face slowly approaching, Ai trembled in fright on the screen. Chapter 61. Inside the bridge of the Hyperion, Ai bit her lip and crouched on the ground, sobbing slightly. You've gone too far, treating people so roughly. Ai looked aggrieved, made a move with her little hand, and pulled out a roll of tissues from somewhere, wiping the tears that fell down. Looks weak, it really makes people feel pity. But unfortunately, Kiana, who was standing in front of her, was unmoved by this. Don't pretend to be pitiful here. Hurry up and explain honestly. Is there any private collection? Kiana looked at Ai with a fierce face. This little guy is so hateful that he dares to record that kind of thing. If it was an entity, it would definitely be a good beating for her. No. Ai-chan is really gone. Ai's little head shook like a rattle. There is no best, and if I find out that there is more, you will be out of luck. Kiana shook her fist and said demonstratively. Ai shrunk her neck and looked at Rita, who was standing there. Rita, you don't count when you talk. You betrayed such a cute Ai-chan. Ai got up from the ground, crossed her waist with her left hand, and pointed at Rita with her right hand, with a deeply distressed expression on her face. I still believe in you so much. Ai said with her right hand on her chest. Ai-chan's young heart has been wounded by you. Ai retreated again, and a sad song slowly floated out of the megaphone. Ai-chan, Rita doesn't seem to have promised you to keep this kind of thing secret. Faintly, mercilessly, like a cold sword coming out of Rita's mouth, pierced Ai's chest at once. The surrounding sounds disappeared in an instant, and Ai tried hard to recall. Conversations flashed through her mind. It seems that there is no such thing as secrecy. How's it going? Do you remember? All the thoughts are just wishful thinking on your part. Naturally, a copy from you will be given to the captain as evidence. First, hearing this, Ai on the screen immediately vomited 3 liters of blood, and her body staggered to the ground. You devil! Ai, who was lying on the ground, trembled and raised her right hand to point at Rita, wanting to cry without tears. Why was he so naive to believe the words of this demon? All right, that's the end of it. You're not allowed to do that again, you know? Hearing Arthur's words, Ai on the screen instantly came to a full blood resurrection. The bloodstains disappeared in an instant, and they were neat again. Understood, Captain. Your words are the direction of AI-chan's progress, the guidance of life, the light on the way to the lost, and the only truth between heaven and earth. Seeing that Arthur was no longer pursuing it, Ai immediately sent a serial fart and finally breathed a sigh of relief. If Arthur is not happy and locks her in a small dark room, it will be sad. Well, the attitude of admitting mistakes is not bad. Come to me in a while and criticize you alone. Arthur nodded matter of fact and looked at Ai with a serious face. I really didn't expect that Ai would have such a function. In other words, any situation in the Hobelian can be seen as long as you want. Wouldn't that be possible? Arthur's face slowly showed a smile that everyone understood. Although he can naturally see satisfaction if he asks, this kind of sneakiness has a different feeling. It's a good idea to try it once in a while. Captain, your thoughts are already written on your face. A faint voice sounded beside him. Rita stood in front of Arthur with a smile on her face, tidying up her neat clothes, but the words like an abyss slowly spat out of her mouth. Captain, you don't want AI-chan to be abused. How? How so? I'm a decent gentleman. Arthur held his head high. His face was righteous and awe-inspiring, but he was muttering in his heart. Rita is really keen, and the idea that just came to her mind was captured. Captain, do you think we'll take your word for it? Mei and Kiana looked at Arthur with disdain. They really thought they were 3 years old. Ahem, it's a nice day. I'll go take a look on the deck. Seeing the murderous aura in the eyes of the 3 people, Arthur immediately flashed with interest. Hee, Captain, if you want to see it, AI-chan can also help. Just standing on the deck, Ai's voice came out carefully from the communicator on his wrist. We'll have a private chat about this in the evening. Seeing a figure flickering at the door of the cabin, Arthur lowered his arm and looked into the distance, as if he was a little melancholy. What are you looking at, Captain? Kiana jumped over and followed Arthur's gaze into the distance. However, it is just an endless sea, and there is no beautiful scenery. What's there to see? Kiana pouted a little incomprehensible. You don't understand, Kiana. This captain is looking at life. You see that the waves are fleeting, just like the shortness of life, only for a moment. Hearing such deep words, Kiana nodded as if she didn't understand. PSS Arthur, who had been tense all the time, couldn't hold back any longer and laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, Kiana, it's so cute that you look so seriously thoughtful. Arthur said and pinched Kiana's face. Okay, your captain, you dare to tease Miss Ben and look at the gun. No matter how stupid Kiana is, she has already reacted since then, and with her hand stretched, 2 guns appeared. Hey, Kiana, you're holding a real gun. With your cheekiness, Captain, even a real gun may not be able to penetrate it. With that, Kiana raised her gun and took aim. However, at Arthur's speed, how could the current Kiana succeed? Boom! The guns rang out. Arthur was unharmed, and in the sky, a newspaper gull fell like a meteor. I'm sorry, Miss Ben didn't mean to. An arrow rushed to the newspaper gull, and was relieved to find that only the wings had been slightly injured. Come, help you bandage it, it will be all right soon. Kiana scrambled to help the newspaper delivery gulls clean their wounds, but Arthur picked up the newspapers scattered on the ground. Are you going to act so soon? Seeing the contents of the newspaper, Arthur's eyes narrowed slightly. Captain, what's going on? Rita, who came out, saw the expression on Arthur's face and asked softly, It's the Rocks Pirates. Let's go. Our next destination, the Valley of the Gods. Women's Auto? Spare me. I don't have such a heavy taste. Do you feel more excited to see a man? Chapter 62, The Valley of the Gods, is the residence of the world's nobles draconian, and the world government is in the hands of the draconians, and Lox's target is naturally aimed here. Around the Valley of the Gods, although there is a navy station in peacetime, its strength is not very strong, and it only serves as a patrol and vigilance. And in the Valley of the Gods, there is the personal guard of the celestial dragons. Similar to members of CP0, most of them are devil fruit abilities, powerful, and serve as guards. I believe that no one would have imagined that such a place would suddenly be attacked by pirates. Rock's pirates entered here with the power of devastation, and in an instant captured the vast majority of the draconians and slaves. And this news was transmitted on the sea like a wind. Headquarters of the Navy. As soon as Cyborg heard the news, he stood up from his stool in an instant. What did you say? Say it again. Even as a marshal, he didn't expect that Lox would be so crazy. Directly hijacked the Draconians. As the pinnacle of the power of the world government, the Draconians cannot be harmed at all. It is also the duty of their navy to protect the Draconians. Yes, the Rock's pirates suddenly broke into the Valley of the Gods and kidnapped a large number of Draconians and slaves. The Navy in charge of the debriefing repeated the sentence again. Lock's pirates, the steel bones clenched their fists and looked like they were gritting their teeth. He was planning how to eliminate the Rock's pirates, and it turned out to be like this, and they were put on the back foot all of a sudden. With the celestial dragons as hostages, their navy did not dare to act rashly. Now that there was no time to hesitate, Cyborg immediately contacted Carp. Carp, who was on a mission outside, returned to the Navy headquarters as fast as he could. Something happened, so anxious for me to rush back. In the phone bug, Steelbone Sora did not explain the specific situation. It's the Rock's pirates. Cyborg told Carp in detail about the information he had gotten. What? Lox dared to. Carp was also a little shocked. They had always looked up to Lox, and now it seems that they still underestimated it. Capturing the Draconians is equivalent to kidnapping the world government. When the time comes, the sea will be up to him. Carp, the situation is urgent. I want you to set off immediately. Everything is premised on the safety of the lives of the Draconians. To speed things up, you can only bring a handful of elites this time. It's already been arranged for you. Carp understood the current form and nodded immediately. I'll contact the Roger Pirates right away and head to the Valley of the Gods together. After all that is said, strode away and turned away. Looking at Carp's departing back, Cyborg thought about it and took out a phone bug. I'd like to ask about Sengoku's physical condition. Outside, dozens of navies stood neatly, with the lowest rank on their shoulders being Rear Admiral. These people have been fighting with Carp to suppress the Rock's pirates, and they are already very familiar with each other. Let's go. The group left the naval headquarters in a mighty manner and set off on a warship. And at this time, Carp took out a phone bug from his arms. This was the only way to get in touch with Roger. On the other side of the sea, a huge sailing ship slowly moved forward, Roger Pirates. Roger sat cross-legged on the floor, wiping his long knife with both hands. Captain Roger, I already know why you agreed to work with the Navy. At this time, Spark, who is a navigator, came over again. During this time, Spark has been thinking about this question. Perhaps that's the only pleasure he's having at the moment. Today, he finally thought of it. Oh, Roger also came to interest with his hands on his knees and his eyes on Spark. It's actually very simple. Because Captain Roger wants to be the one piece, then the Rock's pirates are the biggest obstacle. With the domineering of the Rock's pirates, if the forces around Roger become stronger, they will definitely come to recover them. And with Roger's pride, how can he be willing to be someone else's little brother? Although they are both pirates. But in fact, it is already in a hostile position. Spark shared his analysis one by one, and Roger smiled when he heard it. Well, Captain Roger, did I guess right? Spark is absolutely confident that there is nothing wrong with his ideas. Pretty much, but there's another reason. Roger stood up from the deck, sheathed his long knife, and took a deep breath. Because the Navy has one thing there that I want. What's that? Spark was instantly interested. Signpost. Two faint words came out of Roger's mouth. Blue, blue. The phone bug in my arms suddenly rang at this time. What happened? Roger was confident that Carp would not contact him until something major was done. The Rock's pirates have moved and immediately headed to the Valley of the Gods. Carp's short sentence was full of solemnity. "Roger, we'll be there." A glint flashed in Roger's eyes, and he shouted. Riley turned the rudder and headed for the Valley of the Gods. The massive hull gradually changes direction in the middle of the sea, and at the same time, Hubrian. "AI-chan, when will I be able to reach my destination?" Arthur sat on the couch with a goblet in his hand and shook it gently. The red wine inside swirled quickly along the rim of the glass, but not a single drop spilled out. "Captain, it's going to take a little more than a day at our current pace." It took another day. It seemed a little late. Arthur's brow furrowed. With such a major event, he didn't want to miss the best moment to see the excitement. "AI-chan, transform into airplane mode and get to your destination as fast as possible." "Okay, Captain." AI nodded, and the entire hull shook slightly. "Airplane mode is activating. Please stand still." Warm tips are conveyed from the megaphone throughout Hyperion. From a distance, you can see that the speed of the Hubrian driving in the sea is getting faster and faster, and its appearance is gradually changing shape as it advances. The first level push is underway. Two huge thrusters appeared in the stern of the ship. The secondary push is underway. The deformed ship became faster and faster, and finally gradually moved away from the surface of the sea and achieved low-altitude flight. 3 levels of promotion in the middle of the line. By this time, the appearance of the Hyperion had changed dramatically. Battleships in a cuboid shape hovered above the surface of the sea. Hyperion airplane mode activated. So, the initial starting speed is beyond the reach of many all-out sailboats. Chapter 63, I really didn't expect it to be so easy. Outside the palatial building, Lox laughed with his arms raised, and in the square in front of him was the captured Draconian. Hundreds of celestial dragons gathered in the square, dressed in uniform clothes, and at a glance, it looked like a sea of white. The other members of Lox scavenged the various precious treasures in the room, and their faces were excited. Before entering the Valley of the Gods, they thought that a fierce battle was waiting for them, but they did not expect that the defenses here would be so lax. Any one of them can easily break into it. Could it be that these celestial dragons are so proud that no one in this world will attack here? Indeed, that's what the Draconians think. What is this place? The Valley of the Gods, the place where the Draconians live, the apex of world power. Even if you give those bad people 10 guts, they don't dare to come here to spread wild. If it was usual, it was true, but now there's a Lox. A Lox with the goal of dominating the world. Powerful, crazy, and ambitious. That's what Lox is all about. What others dare not do, Lox dares. To control the Draconians is to control the world government, and now Lox has done just that. Outside, there's a navy coming. In the distance, a pirate with a large amount of wealth in his hand shouted, "How many are coming?" Shiki paused and took the lead in asking the question he was most concerned about. He had already guessed such a situation. The Draconians were captured, and the Navy could not sit idly by, and it was possible to come out. There is only one. Shurji's face was slightly stunned when he heard the answer. "Just a search. Do you see that we are bored and give us time to pass the time?" For the current Rocks pirates, what can a warship do when it comes over? It can't set off any wind and waves at all. Hearing that only one warship was coming, everyone in the pirates didn't care and focused all their attention on fighting for wealth. After all, everything here is worth a fortune. And on the warship, which was still some distance away from the Valley of the Gods, Carp picked up the phone bug again. "Where are you? When will you arrive?" Carp is basically aware of the situation here. The defense forces have all collapsed, and it can be said that the Valley of the Gods is under the control of Lox at this moment. "We're already on our way, and we'll be there in half an hour." Roger's voice came from the phone bug. Putting down the phone bug and looking at the destination that was close at hand, Carp did not wait for Roger, but went straight into it. And at the same time, above, Hyperion also arrived. The invisible Hyperion was docked above the Valley of the Gods, with a panoramic view below. I didn't expect the place where the celestial dragons lived to be so vulnerable. There wasn't much damage around, so it was clear that Lox had an easy time getting in. "Captain Ship, The celestial dragons who control the world. Are they all so weak? Rita's gaze looked at the screen, which showed the scene of the Draconians being placed in the central square. At a glance, it can be seen that these celestial dragons are just ordinary people, and it seems that they're sorry for the status they have. Not really, these are just offspring. That is the legendary rich second generation or something. The generation has already worked hard. They just have to enjoy it. Arthur didn't know much about the specific situation of the Draconians, but he believed that the Draconians must have something that would shock the world, their own force or something. Otherwise, it would be impossible to stay high above for hundreds of years. In this case, doesn't it mean that the celestial dragon people are not far from being destroyed? After all, the descendants are so unlucky. When Mei first learned about the situation of the Tianlong people, she did have a lot of confusion in her heart. It feels a little unreasonable. Why would a powerful person bow down to the weak celestial dragons? If the tree supporting them falls, these people will naturally be wiped out in an instant. But unfortunately, this tree is now a little stronger. Such a big thing happened. So far, Arthur has not seen the figure of the 5 old stars at all. Don't they care about the lives of these Draconians? Or do they have the confidence that the Navy can rescue these celestial dragons? Arthur didn't know exactly what he thought, but he knew one thing. For Locke's behavior, the 5 old stars can still hold their breath. It's not really deep. Arthur came to watch the play anyway, and he had no intention of interfering. Locks. A loud roar came in from outside, led by Carp, and the rest of the people followed on both sides, walking in without the slightest disguise. Ha! It turned out to be you. No wonder you dared to come over and die alone. Seeing that it was Carp, Locks looked up and laughed. It's an old friend. The Navy is still as waste as ever, so I sent you guys over. Dozens of warships can't help him. Is it possible that only a dozen people are going to defeat him, Rox? Edward had been sitting there lazily since he entered the Valley of the Gods, ignoring the riches, and only then did he act when he saw Carp bring people in. The other pirates also stopped their movements and stood around Locks. Locks. Looking at Locks on the other side, Carp's gaze was full of solemnity. The armed color was attached to it, ignoring the Draco next to him, and strode towards Locks. So, just then, a huge rock flew towards me. Carp glared, raised his fist, and smashed it. Boom! The rubble scattered, and Cap's body was surging, and he didn't even look at the ski who was attacking him, and his eyes were staring straight at Rocks. Ha! It looks like I'm not too late. Outside the door, there was another burst of laughter, and Roger, Riley, and Spark came side by side. Roger, are you going to be my enemy? Roger? Roger's arrival surprised Locks, and his eyes flashed fiercely. Locks had also heard a few about the deeds of this newcomer on the sea. It's no use talking too much, Locks. Roger slowly pulled out the short knife at his waist. Everybody here is not going to be a winner. As Roger said this, he glanced upward. It looks like we've been discovered. For Roger to be able to discover him, it should be the ability to listen to the voice of all things. AI-chan, find a place to land, they beat them, we should get down to business. As for the wealth in the Valley of the Gods, Arthur said he would not be polite. Chapter 64 Rumble. A strong collision resounded in the Valley of the Gods. There is no nonsense between the two parties, and they will start fighting when they meet. Overlord color filled the surroundings, and those celestial dragons were unconscious in an instant. For everyone in the fierce battle, no one cares about the lives of the celestial dragons. Fortunately, there were still people in the Navy who were more concerned and moved the unconscious Draco to a safe place for the first time. Otherwise, I'm afraid that after a battle, it will only be the aftermath, and these heavenly dragons will die here. Roger, we are all pirates. Join our Rocks pirates, and the whole world will be subjugated to our feet. Roger and Carp both have clear goals, and they find Locks as soon as possible. In the face of the attack of the two, Locks was still at ease. I'm sorry, but I don't have much interest in something like conquering the world. Brush. The short knife slashed, and the domineering collision made the surrounding space tremble. Not interested. One by one. Arthur wasn't interested, and now Roger wasn't either. The domineering aura around Locks gradually boiled with his mood. Carp leaped to the side, and the attached arm domineering fist blasted towards Lox's head. Don't underestimate me, you two. At this moment, the momentum on Lox's body reached its peak, surrounded by domineering, like a demon descending into the world. Sure, this Lox is still as tough as ever. Arthur, who shuttles through the rooms and is looking for treasures, feels the pressure coming from his surroundings and pouts out of his mouth. I wonder what Roger and Carp are going to do. It is estimated that their battle will not be resolved for a while, and Arthur also sped up the treasure hunt process. AI-chan, scan around. All right, Captain, the scan begins. Ai's voice came from the communicator, and an invisible fluctuation spread outward. Captain, a lot of reactions have been detected in the room on the left. As soon as Ai's words fell, Arthur was already standing in front of a wide door. This material, is it made of sea building stone? Not only can the Hylu stone make the capable lose their strength, but the basic body also has an unusually hard hardness. The right hand was clenched, and a long knife appeared in the hand. Brush, brush, brush. Several sword flashes flashed, and a gap had been opened by Arthur. I've really found a treasure trove. It was filled with all kinds of riches, glittering with gold. Captain, we found a lot of things here, come here. As soon as the wealth in the room was collected, Kiana's voice came from the communicator. I'll be there soon. Meanwhile, outside, the rest of the Rock's pirates confronted the Navy. The two sides fight back and forth, regardless of the middle. It can be seen that each of them is just fending off the attack of the Navy, and all eyes are on the battlefield of Locks. If Rocks wins, they will naturally show their due value and use all their strength to bring down the Navy in front of them. If they fail, they won't be stupid enough to go toe-to-toe with these navies. God knows how many more navies are on their way to the back. This time, in a hurry, Carp was only in the vanguard, and indeed a large number of navies were coming. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is pouring out of the nest. Doing such a thing, even if it is a pile of people, it will kill Lox in the Valley of the Gods. This time, Steelbone Kong also made up his mind and came in person. Lox, let's get caught. Carp and Roger teamed up to fight against each other, and for a while they couldn't help Lox. Ha, you want to beat me? Carp, you're still too tender. Lox laughed, domineering, and his body looked a little taller under the somewhat gloomy sky. That's going to have to be done to find out. In the previous one-on-one against Lox, Carp has indeed been at a disadvantage, but in order to become stronger, he is also training hard every day. Carp is not a devil fruit ability, but he has trained his physical skills to a very strong state. Each attack is with the power of opening the mountain and breaking the mountain. Roger next to him was holding a short knife, armed with a color entanglement, and a sharp sword aura swept around. At the center of the three-person battle, the domineering collision made the space chaotic. Only the shockwave that spreads outward lets those around know how fierce the battle is going on inside. Boom! Suddenly, the sky bell roared, and a dazzling golden light spread outward. This familiar aura made Arthur look up. In midair, a figure was like a Buddha descending from the sky, stretching out his palm and slapping it down. People have not arrived, but powerful oppression has come. Boom! With a roar, the space exploded, and Edward clenched his fist to attack the space. This was also Edward's first real shot. Because of the arrival of Sengoku, a powerful opponent made him feel a little excited. The power of the shock fruit. Under one blow, a crack appeared in the space, and a powerful force spread to all sides. However, that's not all. At the entrance to the Valley of the Gods, two figures emerged. Blackwrist Zifa Crane. After this period of recuperation, Zifa's body has recovered. Finally arrived. The arm color was directly attached to the hands, and Zifa had an excited expression on his face. The time spent recuperating in bed was about to suffocate him. Be careful. Everybody here is strong. Tsuru is still very wary of the Rock's pirates. Don't worry, you can't die. Rumble. A huge roar spread outward from the Valley of the Gods. Because of the sudden arrival of the warring states and the power of Edward's outburst, the fighting between the two sides came to an invariably halt. Sengoku, are you okay already? Seeing Sengoku appear, Carp was overjoyed. It's okay, and it feels better than before. Sengoku clenched his fists, and the power that surged from his whole body filled him with fighting spirit. Where were you before? Martial air is quite secretive. This has always been a doubt in Carp's mind. We'll talk about this later and solve the problem in front of us first. Sengoku's gaze looked at Locks in front of him. Now that his strength has increased, he has a lot of confidence in facing Locks again. The entire battlefield has undergone some changes due to the arrival of a few people, and all of this is in Arthur's view. Captain, Rita was about to say something, but was interrupted by Arthur. Do you feel it too? Rita, although it is only for a moment, and it is very faint, but I believe that there is nothing wrong. Arthur's gaze was fixed on Sengoku. It's the breath of Honkai. From the power that erupted from Sengoku, Arthur felt a trace of the fluctuation of collapse. Chapter 65, Breath of Honkai. Captain, do you feel wrong? Kiana looked at Arthur with a look of surprise. It's impossible to think about it. This is the world of pirates. How can there be an aura of collapse? Kiana, the captain, and Rita didn't feel wrong, and May noticed it. It's just very faint, and only when he bursts out with all his strength will it float out a little. Mei's eyes were also filled with surprise, and she looked at Arthur, waiting for his decision. There must be a demon when things go wrong, and now it seems that it is impossible not to participate. Arthur, who originally wanted to watch the play, now has a strong sense of inquiry. How could the warring states be tainted with the breath of collapse? And both arms have been restored. Is there a relationship between the two? These are all things to figure out. In the central square, after the previous battle, it was already riddled with holes. Sengoku, I didn't expect you, an old fellow, to come too, Locke said as he slowly moved his whole body, with an insolent smile on his face. It's not that he hasn't experienced 1 against 2, and now it's just one more person. Locks, do something like this, don't think you'll get out of here safely. Sengoku's gaze was solemn, sweeping over each member of the Rock's pirates one by one. His gaze lingered on Edward for a moment. It's still so strong, the power of the shock fruit. A blow of his own was easily neutralized. None of these people are easy to provoke. Haha, Sengoku, you've said that more than once, and I'm still standing here. Locks raised his head to the sky and roared. His long black hair fluttered wildly, and the domineering spirit of his whole body burst out, causing dark clouds in the sky. So today, let this be fulfilled here. As soon as the words fell, it was like blowing the horn of battle, and the momentum on everyone's body burst out. The strong momentum is like substance, tearing everything around it. Under such momentum, the weak ones don't even have room to get closer. The impact of momentum stimulates everyone's nerves, and as long as there is a slight movement, it will definitely affect the whole body. Finally, Sengoku took the lead. Warring states in the form of a big Buddha with a huge body, like a giant, was stopped by a figure when it was about to attack Locks. Edward Newgate, the battle between us isn't over yet, Sengoku. Boom! Before the words fell, Edward had already activated the power of the fruit. The rift that spread in the space went towards the fruit. In the face of such an attack, Sengoku had no choice but to stop and respond. And everyone else has found their own opponents. The situation that had just calmed down was once again plunged into chaos. The group of major generals who had first followed Carp here breathed a sigh of relief. Although their strength is very strong, there is still a bit of a gap compared to the Rock's pirates. Now that reinforcements are coming, the mood is high. And at this time, Arthur was finally about to move. You have to feel it up close to be more confirmed. Edward's battle with Sengoku continued, but suddenly a figure appeared between the two. The sudden appearance of this figure startled the two of them, but the attack had already been sent, and it was not so easy to take it back. Arthur was unhurried by the swift attack, and an ice shield appeared next to him to fend off Edward's attack, while he himself turned to meet Sengoku. In order to feel the subtle fluctuations more clearly, Arthur used an attack of pure power. Boom! The fists collided, and the space exploded. A powerful force swept out, and the rocks that shook up were crushed by the force. It's him, Arthur. Arthur's appearance attracted everyone's attention. The people here have dealt with Arthur more or less a few times and are quite aware of his great strength. So how will the arrival of this person change the situation of the battle? Everyone's faces were cloudy, and they didn't know what they were thinking. Ha ha ha. Arthur, you still made the right choice at a critical juncture. Come, join me in making the world sound with our names. Locke's words made the faces of the Navy change. If Arthur and Knox join forces, they will be in a very passive position. I'm sorry, Locke, but I'm here for one purpose. Arthur's gaze was fixed on the warring states in front of him. A word that was neither salty nor light responded to his enthusiasm, which made the expression on Locke's face stiffen slightly. Arthur's pirates? Exactly. Edward had always wanted to play Arthur to see how big the gap was between them, but he never found the right opportunity. And now is a godsend. Just as Edward was about to make a move, two slender figures stood in front of him. Rita and May E. I won't let you get in the way of the captain. Now it's up to me to be your opponent. And Kiana, who was still in the distance, looked at all this with an unhappy face. Because Kiana's strength is not particularly strong now, Arthur asked her to stay where she was. Even though he was eager to participate in the battle, he couldn't help but listen to the captain's words. So I had to sulk on my own. It's you. When Sengoku saw the face of the person in front of him clearly, he couldn't help but be surprised. Sengoku, how did you get your arm connected? If it was connected normally, Arthur would naturally not ask, but the distance was closer, and Arthur could feel that the faint Honkai aura was emanating from Sengoku's arm. It's all thanks to you, and I'm stronger now, Sengoku said, his fists clenched, and his whole body surged with strength, bombarding Arthur. Since I don't want to talk about it, I'll have to figure it out myself. In the face of Sengoku's attack, Arthur did not dodge. Edward has been in the mold for 8 lifetimes, and he was fighting with the warring states. As a result, Arthur intervened sideways, and then 2 more men laid siege to him. One person is a little overwhelmed, let alone 2 people who are beaten and retreat. What made him feel shocked was that the shock fruit that he had torn apart the space had been greatly restricted in this icy realm. And at the same time, outside the Valley of the Gods, countless warships appeared awkwardly on the horizon, and on the deck at the forefront, a figure stood proudly. Steel bones empty. Chapter 66. Hurry up and carry these draconians to the warship, and then take them to a safe place. When Cyborg came to the Valley of the Gods, he found that the celestial dragons had been thrown outside, and their souls were about to come out. It's not to blame those navies. The battle is ongoing, and it's already rare to be able to send these celestial dragons to a safe place. Fortunately, we arrived in time, but if it was a little late, the consequences would be really unimaginable. Seeing the Navy carrying the Tianlong people to the warship one by one, Steel Bone Kong finally breathed a sigh of relief. Looking into the Valley of the Gods, the battle fluctuations generated from it became larger and larger, making Cyborgu's face solemn. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky, and thunder and lightning poured down. What's going on inside? The Steelbone Hollow was startled and hurriedly rushed in. In the Valley of the Gods, Arthur's battle with Sengoku is still ongoing. Compared to the first encounter, the strength of this time has indeed improved, but it still didn't pose much of a threat to Arthur. Not to mention other abilities, just the blessing of the armed color and the color of seeing and hearing. Not ordinary people can hurt Arthur in the slightest. It turns out that this is the ability to foresee the short future, and it is really useful. For the use of domineering appearance, Arthur is only now exerted. The high-level insight can already foresee the short future. With itself as the center within a certain radius, you can see what is happening in the next few seconds. However, evasion is not Arthur's purpose. He wants to make Sengoku exert more power. A punch was thrown, and thunder surrounded. With the domineering of thunder and lightning, even the warring states at this time could not remain indifferent. Why? I'm already stronger. The more he fought the warring states, the more surprised he became. With his strength, he still didn't have much power to fight back in Arthur's hands. I can't believe that the power of the Sengoku is getting stronger and stronger, and this is exactly what Arthur wants. surrounded by Sengoku, feeling the aura of collapse emanating from his wounds, his brow furrowed slightly. This breath is like a rootless ping, getting weaker and weaker. If this continues, I'm afraid it will all dissipate after a while. Arthur's brow furrowed slightly, and he stood in place and fell into deep thought, and the attack stopped instantly. Opportunity. The eyes of the warring states erupted into busyness, and all the power was gathered on the right fist, and it bombarded with the momentum of Mount Tai. Boom! The earth shook. Ow! How is that possible? Arthur stood in front of him like an Optimus pillar, fending off his attack with one hand. Who healed your severed arm? Now Arthur is 80% sure that there is definitely a problem in the treatment of Sengoku's broken arm. Do you think I'm going to tell you? In fact, even if Sengoku wanted to tell Arthur, he didn't know what to say, because he was lying in the sleep pod the whole time, and when he woke up again, his arm was already attached. Not only that, but it feels stronger than before. Since you don't say it, then don't blame me for being rude. Turning his palm into a fist, he bombarded forward, and the warring states took the blow and took several steps back. What a powerful force. Sengoku is still confident in his own strength, but now, reality no longer allowed him to think about it, and Arthur's attack struck again. Each attack made Sengoku's body tremble. Damn, is it really going to fail again like this? Sengoku was very unwilling. What kind of monster is there on this sea? Although Lox's strength is strong, he can see the bottom. However, every time he meets Arthur, he has a feeling of facing the abyss. Sengoku, I'm here to help you. A loud shout came from afar, and the steel bones were running as they ran, and the armed color was attached to their whole body. The black armament shimmered with an indestructible light, like King Kong. Two people. Arthur roared, his eyes shining with excitement. With his current strength, it is not easy to meet an opponent of equal strength. A Sengoku is still a little worse, but if you had a steel bone empty, it will be more fun. Thunder. Arcs of lightning flickered around Arthur, making his attacks even more threatening. The sky was covered with dark clouds under the influence of the battlefield below. The rumbling sound was endless. Caligula, since they said that they should not get in the way of their captain, then anyone around them should be targeted. Roar. Behind Mei, a huge dragon-like creature soared into the sky. With a gentle wave of wings, you can set off a great storm, and you have 4 abilities: ice, fire, thunder, and darkness. Thunder fell from the sky, and Caligula's huge body shuttled through the battlefield. Oh my God, what kind of creature is this? Charlotte Lingling's eyes showed a look of surprise, and then burst into surprise. I want to keep it for myself. After finishing speaking, he directly abandoned the navy in front of him, jumped his body, and rushed towards Caligula. Rumble. A breath of flame mixed with thunder erupted from Kirigar's mouth. Rumble. A huge explosion swept outward. Haha, obediently become my belonging. I have to say that Charlotte Lingling's defense is so strong. Resisting this attack with your body is only slightly embarrassing. I'm getting more and more fond of you. Charlotte Lingling was not angry, but became more and more excited, and when she wanted to rush up again, a pair of cold eyes looked at her on her back. Holding his right hand high, Celestial Realm Judgment summons lightning bolts from the sky, attacking indiscriminately below. This caused public outrage. The others were fighting, distracted by the sudden attack, and one by one they glared angrily. Brush, brush, brush. Several cold rays flashed, and Rita came slowly dressed in a blue night moon soul, and a huge figure appeared behind her. And Edward, who was fighting against him, was frozen in ice with the lower half of his body, looking at Rita's back with a complicated look in his eyes. On the other side, Arthur became more and more excited. How long has it been since he fought with all his might? It's really exhilarating and comfortable. And the corresponding steel bones and the warring states are suffering. Attacks come in waves like waves. At this time, they realized that it was not a good thing for the body's defenses to be too strong. Brush. The ice spread outward, instantly freezing the entire valley and everyone except Mei, Rita, and Kiana. In the valley, a figure stands tall and dominates the world. Kiana in the corner, squatted on the ground, drawing circles with a dissatisfied expression. Chapter 67, The Valley of the Gods, covered in ice, is as pleasing to the eye as a carefully carved ornament. Freeze everything, and the land falls silent. Hey, a small head suddenly poked out from a distance. Kiana scanned back and forth, marveling at all of this. The captain is really good at that aspect. The small mouth is slightly open, and there are small shining stars in his eyes. With his hands propped up, he jumped out from behind the building where he was hiding. "Captain, you're amazing." Kiana looked at Arthur with admiration, but it was difficult to hide the loss in her eyes. At this time, they should fight side by side, and they can only hide on the sidelines. "You're going to be very good in the future." Arthur patted Kiana on the head. Click! The subtle sound of the ice shattering was particularly harsh in the silence of the space. Covered in ice, Locke still maintained an attacking stance, starting from his head, and some small cracks gradually appeared. With this soft sound, it seems to have caused a chain reaction. The sound of ice breaking on everyone's body rang out one after another. Boom! Locke's was the first to break free, and the earth-shattering momentum mixed with extreme anger rushed to the sky. "Arthur!" A roar of rage emanated from Locke's mouth and echoed around, his crimson eyes fixed on Arthur, choosing to devour him. The body rushed out, and the speed of Locke's was extremely fast. This time, Locke's really had a murderous intent on Arthur. Humph! May waited coldly and controlled Caligula suspended in midair to swoop down. "Don't get in the way." Locke's roared, stretched his arms forward, and grabbed Caligula's head with his palm. But the force sent Locke's body back, leaving a deep furrow in the ground. Boom! After hitting the wall, the rubble on it spilled down, and Kuragala rose into the sky. Yikes! With a roar, the rubble shot out, and Locke's came back to life with full blood. And at this time, the others also broke free from the shackles of ice. After seeing the surrounding prospect clearly, everyone was shocked. Almost the entire island was frozen in an instant, and this kind of power was only one of Arthur's abilities. This man is really unfathomable. Everyone looked at Arthur with a mixture in their eyes. Roger raised his right hand and shook it, his eyes showing a thoughtful look. Just when everyone thought that Locke would fight Arthur, a faint voice resounded all around. "Stop it, Locke. Let's save some effort and fight the Navy." As soon as this sentence came out, everyone's faces in the Navy changed to varying degrees. If Locke and Arthur fought, they would naturally want to see it. But I didn't expect to be stopped by Arthur at the beginning. So will Locke agree? Much of the Navy's attention was focused on Locke. Locke's attitude determined the situation that followed. "Locke, find out your purpose before you act." Before Locke could make a move, Arthur spoke again. "Take 10,000 steps back. Even if you can defeat me, you won't be able to become a world hegemon. But as long as you kill all these navies, then the outer warships and the Draconians will be at your disposal. The world will be in the palm of your hand." Hearing Arthur's words, the look of anger on Locke's face gradually faded. "How do you know?" Steelbone Hollow was shocked. He didn't understand why Arthur would know that those Draconians had been taken by him to the warship. Of course this is a secret. Faced with the doubts of the Steelbones, Arthur naturally wouldn't tell him that it was because of the domineering nature of what he saw and heard. "Do you choose to fight me and let the Navy reap the benefits of the fishermen, or do you want to spare some strength to deal with the Navy?" "Locke, I'm sure someone as smart as you would make the right choice." Arthur's voice echoed around him, and Locke's face grew gloomy. "We're at war with the Navy, and you're the last fisherman, aren't you?" This is what worries Locke the most. The three forces are very strong with each other, and now no one dares to do it easily. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in the boring ambition of dominating the world. So I'll leave here and leave the battlefield to you." After Arthur finished speaking, he ignored the stunned crowd, beckoned to Rita and May, and turned to walk out. Just gone? This is the doubt in everyone's mind. It makes people a little unbelievable. But seeing Arthur's unrelenting back gradually fade away, the truth is in front of everyone. It's not good. The warship's outside. Steel Gukong seemed to think of something and hurriedly chased out. And the warring states were afraid that the steel bones would not be able to deal with it alone, so they followed. The entire valley fell silent. Why did things change so dramatically? The speed of change is a bit jaw-dropping. Being disturbed by Arthur like this, Lox suddenly felt a little bored, but he was already here, ready to fly. The condensed battle gradually boiled, like a spark thrown into a barrel of dynamite. Suddenly, the battle broke out again. And outside the Valley of the Gods, when Cyborg and Sengoku came out, they happened to see Arthur and his party boarding Hyperion. Was there such a ship there when I came? Such doubts flashed in the mind of the Steel Bones, and then disappeared. When he found that Arthur did not make a move on the Draconians on the warship, but gradually moved away, he breathed a sigh of relief. But even so, Gangukon was still not at ease, and boarded a warship with Sengoku and followed him far behind. When it is completely out of the confines of the Valley of the Gods, it can be regarded as a stop. A few days later, news came out that shocked the sea. The captain of the Rock's pirates was ambushed, and the other members scattered and fled, and the Navy was encircling and suppressing it with all its might. The pirates who knew the news all regretted it, and at the same time were even more in awe of the Navy. And in a calm sea, Hyperion moved forward slowly. Captain, these navies don't take us seriously, and they don't even mention us in the newspapers. Kiana held the newspaper in both hands and read it carefully several times, but she didn't find a single word about them, and she was immediately disinterested and threw it on the table. This is also a normal phenomenon. How can the report of the Navy extinguish their own prestige? Arthur shook his head, not caring about this kind of thing, but not at all. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, Yasuo sighed in his heart. This news heralded the end of an era. At the same time, it heralds the beginning of another era. This paragraph is finally finished. The detailed description is too long, and it is not interesting to call back and forth, and it is estimated that many people just hope to get a result. So get it done in a few chapters. As for Jiu Xiao and Xing, they will not appear. Jiu Xiao is because his thinking and the author's ability are really limited, and Xing's words have a bad personality, although is harmless, but he still can't write. Chapter 68, it's been a few days since the Valley of the Gods event. The scene of boiling on the sea is also gradually calming down. Hearsayers may soon forget about it, and only remember in their leisure time that there was once a group of pirates on the sea called Lox. It's just that such a powerful pirate group was still destroyed by the Navy in the end. That's all. Only those who were truly involved in that event would know the horrors of the Rock's pirates. Even if they all went out in the Navy, they would only eliminate Lox alone. The remaining members fled in all directions after the defeat of Lox, scattered throughout the sea, and are currently missing. During the period of the battle with Lox, the Navy had consumed a lot of troops, and it was no longer able to carry out such arrest activities. As long as they don't make too big of a big deal, it is estimated that they will be resigned to it. And the members of the Rock's pirates don't have much friendship with each other, and some only have conflicts of interest. After dispersing, they went their separate ways, and there was little contact with each other. And on a large ship, there are only two people, Charlotte Lingling and Kaido. The two of them didn't look very good on the surface. After all, it was not so easy to break out of the blockade surrounded by the Navy. And Kaido, as an intern, was able to rush out all thanks to Charlotte Lingling. This time thanks to you, Lingling. Kaido gasped for 2 breaths and looked at Charlotte Lingling and whispered, "Don't be so polite. Just help you for the sake of your more pleasing to the eye." Charlotte Lingling stood up from the stool, dug behind her, and threw an object to Kaido. "It's a devil fruit." When Kaido took it, he found that it was the devil fruit in his hand. If you eat a devil fruit, you will have a power that ordinary people cannot match, and it is a secret treasure in the sea. Even if the Rock's pirates crisscrossed the sea, they only got a few devil fruits. This shows how precious it is. Yes, that's the devil fruit. Charlotte Lingling nodded. "Give. For me." Kaido couldn't believe that such a precious thing was given to him directly. "If you don't want it, you can give it back to me." "No. Thank you, Lingling." At this moment, Kaido's heart was really full of emotion. "You're welcome. It won't do much to me anyway, so you can leave on the next island." Charlotte Lingling looked into the distance. a smile on her lips. Are you going to Arthur? Kaido frowned slightly. It's not something you should worry about. Charlotte Lingling snorted coldly, and the entire ship fell silent. Soon, a small island appeared in front of him. Kaido silently got off the boat, looked at Charlotte Lingling's departing back, raised the devil fruit in his hand and bit it. It's really unpalatable. The taste like Chinese medicine spread in his mouth, making Kaido's face unnaturally distorted. But he swallowed it with difficulty and ate all the devil fruits in 3 or 2 bites. From this time on, Kaido finally embarked on the path of becoming a strong man. And on another stretch of sea, the Roger Pirates. "How's it going, Captain? Have you found what you're looking for?" Riley looked at Roger, who was wrapped in bandages, and walked over with a smile. "That's natural, and the Navy still has this bit of credit." Against Lox, Roger was not unscathed and needed to recuperate for a few days. It's just a pity that after defeating a Lox, there are even bigger obstacles ahead. Captain Roger, the idea that you want to become the king of the pirates. I'm afraid it's a bit difficult to achieve. In the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, Sparks saw in his eyes, and the strength of the Arthur pirates is still fresh in his memory. It's definitely an existence comparable to the Rock's pirates. However, Roger listened to Sparks' words, but shook his head with a smile. The Arthur pirates are very strong. There is no doubt about that. I'm afraid we can't beat them with all our strength, but it's different. What's different? Spark blinked, a little questioning. Lox is not the same as Arthur. Lox has the ambition to dominate the world and enjoys the feeling of holding power, which will cause great turmoil to the whole world, so the world government and navy will do their best to encircle and suppress it. Roger took a deep breath as he said this, and the figure of Arthur came to mind. But Arthur was different. Rather than dominating the world, I believe he prefers to be the uncrowned king. From the first time he met Arthur, Roger had a feeling. This feeling is still present today. It should be said that he is worthy of Roger, and he is very accurate in seeing people. Although Arthur has no ambition to dominate the world, he also understands the importance of strength and power, and I've been working hard for it. At the same time, the Navy headquarters did not know how to choose because of one thing. What should Arthur's bounty be? The rest of Lox is at large, and although the Navy will not carry out large-scale arrests, the reward order will still be issued. Most of the bounties are set at a price of nearly 1 billion or so. These are easy to solve, but the problem lies with the Arthur pirates. With the strength of the Arthur pirates, even if the bounty amount is 2 billion, it is not too much. Carp's upper body was full of bandages, and in his heart, Arthur was even more terrifying than Lox, and the bounty must be higher than the members of the Lox pirates. The amount of the bounty is not set randomly. There are many things involved. Sengoku shook his head. A bounty order contains a lot of information and must be treated with caution. If the amount is set too low, it is really a bit of an insult to the name of the Arthur pirates. Even if it is an opponent, you must maintain the most basic respect. Carp's voice still echoed through the room, and the steel skeleton sitting at the front spoke. The world government has issued the latest directives. The reward of the Arthur pirates is not more than 100 million. Even Cyborg Sora didn't understand why the world government would give such an order. 100 million? Even Sengoku's face was filled with some disbelief. We just have to follow the orders given by the world government. In this way, a bounty order that made the Navy headquarters feel a little outrageous was sent out and passed into the sea, mixed with the bounty orders of nearly 1 billion for each of the other members of the Rocks Pirates. The bounty orders of less than 100 million really can attract everyone's attention. Even if you want to go to the Honkai world, it will be a long time later. At least you have to finish writing the pirate world first. Chapter 69, Captain, look, we're famous. Arthur, who was sitting in the living room, saw Kiana running over excitedly with a stack of things. Captain, look, there's my portrait on it. Rita, May, and the captain have yours too. Kiana placed the wanted notices in her hand one by one on the table and excitedly pointed to the one with her image. May, and Rita on the side heard Kiana's voice and couldn't help but come over. Really, it looks like we were filmed when we were in the Valley of the Gods. May picked up her portrait, looked at it carefully for a while, and said slowly, Haha, we're pretty well known now. Kiana tilted her head smugly. making Arthur smile uneasily, and picked up his own one and looked at it. Sure enough, the background above can be seen to be in the Valley of the Gods. I didn't expect that in such a chaotic battle, there would be a navy that was specifically responsible for secretly filming such a thing. When I looked down and saw the amount below the picture, I couldn't help but be slightly stunned. 100 million Baileys. Such a bounty can only be regarded as a well-known category in the sea. I'm really cheap. It's only worth 100 million. Arthur really didn't know how to describe his mood at the moment. Kiana, don't get excited. What's your bounty below? What bounty? Kiana's eyes widened, completely unclear about what Arthur was talking about. Captain Rita's is 80 million Bailey. May's is also 80 million Bailey. Immediately, the eyes of the three people looked at Kiana at the same time. Don't rush your counting. 1, 10, 100, 1,000, million, billion. Wait. At first, I didn't think it was anything, but when it reached 100 million, a trace of consternation flashed across Arthur's face, and then even a billion jumped out. This made Arthur a little unable to sit still. Could it be that his dignified captain is even lower than Kiana's bounty? It's completely unreasonable. Let me see your bounty. If Kiana really has more than him, Arthur thinks he can go to the Admiralty headquarters and talk to the Admiral. Receiving the bounty order handed over by Kiana, Arthur glanced at it and couldn't help but roll his eyes. Kiana, is your math taught by your English teacher? It's still a billion, only 10 million Baileys. Arthur slapped the bounty on the table. How is that possible? Look at the captain. Kiana pointed to the amount on the bounty, unconvinced. Hey, don't be one. 2 decimal places don't count. Don't you know? Hearing Arthur's words, Kiana was struck by lightning and stood on the spot. 1, 10 million Bailey. Why do I have so little? Is this what you're focused on? Shouldn't you be ashamed of yourself for checking the numbers wrong? Arthur shook his head speechlessly. Captain, it seems that everyone else has a higher bounty than ours. Rita had a stack of bounty orders in her hand and flipped them over one by one. That's right, Captain. Kiana has also found out about this problem. Their numbers are so long. It turns out that you look at how much the amount is calculated by length. Arthur couldn't help but complain in his heart. Took the bounty order handed over by Rita, and there were people who knew and didn't know the bounty on it. And the more he looked at it, Arthur frowned slightly. Most of the bounties of each person in the Rocks Pirates have reached about 500 million, of which Edward, Charlotte Lingling, and others are close to 1 billion. Even Kaido's bounty for this in turn reached 300 million. Am I not even as good as Kaido now? Arthur put the bounty in his hand on the table and muttered to himself. Captain, there's a big problem with these bounty orders. The amount of the bounty order is calculated based on strength and danger. And although they haven't done any big harm now, they shouldn't have more than that. Maybe that's what the Navy wants to do. Arthur's eyes flashed with wisdom. The extremely powerful Locks pirates were all wiped out by the Navy. And if there's another pirate group at this time that is not much different from the reputation of the Locks pirates, then it must have a very negative impact on the rule of the Navy. The reduction of the bounty also made many people stop paying attention to the Arthur pirates, which could minimize the influence of this powerful pirate group. As for the after, let's talk about it later. And all this is different from Arthur's guess, but not much different. The current Navy can no longer withstand a large-scale operation like the Rocks pirates. Bounty order? At this time, Kiana suddenly wondered, what are you talking about? Big eyes blinked. I don't understand how this new word popped out of the mouths of the captain and Rita. The so-called bounty warrant is a wanted warrant issued by the Navy to us. As long as someone finds the Navy with our head, they can receive the corresponding bounty amount. Seeing Kiana's little confused look, Arthur couldn't help but explain it to her. Aren't we going to be targeted by a lot of people? Kiana's eyes widened instantly, and her initial joy was swept away. It's really possible for you to say that. For many people, the amount of the bounty corresponds to the strength of that person. We're in a position where we're not up or down, and we're the right target to be targeted. Arthur nodded thoughtfully. Just in time, Miss Ben will beat them all away. Kiana waved her hands, looking high and full of anticipation. But alas, this expectation was exhausted after waiting for a few days and no one came to find trouble. Captain, why hasn't anyone come to trouble us? Kiana lay on the sofa weakly, without any energy. Maybe you're on your way. Be patient. The sea is so vast. How can it be so easy to come across people who come to them for trouble? Arthur smiled and opened the system interface. After this period of accumulation, the friendship points above are enough. Open the lottery screen and click on the 10 replenishment. Clusters of light flashed in front of him, and a smile curled into Arthur's lips. Sure enough, everything was as he had guessed. Character shards, 43/30ths upgradable. Kiana, ready. Arthur reminded him and clicked promote. Before Kiana could comprehend what Arthur meant, she felt a surge of power from her chest. Streams of white light emanated from her chest, enveloping Kiana and forming a ball of light. The ball of light slowly rose and was suspended in midair. After a while, the light was restrained and a figure emerged. There have been some subtle changes in the armor on his body, the most striking of which is the gamma particle ray that resembles divine wings behind it. S-Class Valkyrie, White Knight Moonlight. The main character's current abilities are the top Overlord color, the Advanced Insight color, Foreseeable Short-Term Future, and the Advanced Arm color. You can control the two abilities of Ice and Thunder, and for details, you can roughly refer to Pheasant and Anilu, as well as the swordsmanship that inherited May E. That's all for now. Chapter 70 Bang Bang Bang, a virtual salute of holograms, exploded around Kiana. Congratulations to Kiana Kaslana for her great advancement. Ai's voice rang out. Kiana, who was suspended in midair, was wearing the White Knight Moonlight armor, which was less cute and more holy at the moment. The body fell from midair and stood in front of Arthur. It feels great, Captain. Kiana raised her hands and shook them, and she could clearly feel that her strength was much stronger than before. Well, yes, in this way, you can also have a certain amount of self-protection on this sea. Seeing Kiana at this moment, Arthur nodded with satisfaction. So in the future, will you be able to fight side by side with the captain? Kiana clasped her hands in front of her chest and raised her head slightly, her big eyes shining expectantly. I don't want to be the captain of a ship anymore when they deal with the enemy, so I can only hide from a distance and watch. Yes. In Kiana's expectant gaze, Arthur nodded. Yes, that's great, Captain. Kiana hugged Arthur and jumped excitedly. All right. It'll be hard if you jump down again. Just don't hold us back. Arthur patted the little head in front of him and soothed Kiana, who was a little overexcited. Don't worry, Captain. Miss Ben will never hold back. Kiana patted her chest hard, looking quite confident. Okay, then let's wait and see. Kiana's strength has increased. Everyone is happy, and Rita prepares a sumptuous dinner. After eating and drinking, he came to the deck. The fiery clouds in the sky are red, and the clear water below is reflected in each other, and it looks like a fairyland from a distance. It's beautiful. Kiana and May looked at this scenery and couldn't help but yearn for it. Indeed, I haven't seen such a sunset for a long time. How about we take a group photo? Arthur's proposal was unanimously approved. Buy a camera from a store and put it in front of you. Set the time. 3, 2, 1, eggplant. Click. The lights flickered and the picture was already out. I'll see. Kiana took the photo in her hand with a lunge. The four people, Arthur, are in the middle, Rita and May are on the left and right, and Kiana is standing in front with her hands like scissors. In the back, the sunset reflects the whole picture, which looks like a dream. Here, one for each person. The camera has a copy function, and you can make many copies after taking a picture. Seeing that Rita and May had been staring at the photo in Kiana's hand, Arthur naturally understood why. I started this function right away, and I sent one to everyone. Holding the photo in his hand, everyone was smiling happily. Captain, can I take a few more shots? Kiana looked at the camera next to her with some eagerness. Absolutely. With Arthur's permission, Kiana picked up her camera and took pictures around the deck, and she really took a lot of good pictures. Huh. Captain, it looks like a ship is coming towards us. As Kiana was looking around, a small black in the distance came into view. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it looks like a sailboat. Hearing Kiana's voice, everyone couldn't help but look up. Captain, the man on the ship. Hmm. Arthur nodded. The man on the boat was all very familiar. Charlotte Lingling. How'd she come to this place? As Arthur pondered, the sailboat had come to the opposite side of Hyperion. Charlotte Lingling. It's a coincidence that the vast sea can meet you. Charlotte Lingling was alone on the huge sailboat, and Arthur glanced around, frowning slightly. Hey, we're old acquaintances, so we don't need to be called so outside. Charlotte Lingling put her hands on the side of the boat and threw her eyes away. Arthur could clearly feel that the temperature around him had dropped a lot. We don't know each other so well. Let's talk about something as soon as possible. Although Charlotte Lingling is still a big beauty, under the eyes of the 3 pairs of tigers next to her, she only looks at her nose and knows. It's really ruthless. It's rare for people to come to you with all the difficulty. Charlotte Lingling looks aggrieved, and she is still very interesting at the moment. Although this statement is somewhat exaggerated, it is also true. In order to find Arthur, Charlotte Lingling wandered at sea for several days. If you don't want to say anything, I'll leave. Seeing that Charlotte Lingling's 3 sentences had not yet reached the point, Arthur's patience had gradually disappeared. Actually, I came here this time to cooperate with you, and if there is one more beautiful woman by your side, I believe you won't mind. Saying that, Charlotte Lingling put one hand on her waist and outlined the curves of her figure. I don't mind. Before Arthur could speak, Kiana took a step forward and glared at Charlotte Lingling. You old aunt, don't bother our captain if it's okay, Kiana said as she grabbed Arthur's arm and declared her sovereignty. This guy seduced their captain as soon as he came, and he couldn't bear it. Old aunt, what are you talking about, little girl who hasn't even grown all your hair? The corners of Charlotte Lingling's mouth twitched, and her anger instantly churned. Although Charlotte Lingling does belong to the ranks of ants compared to Kiana, what woman would admit that she is old? The captain likes the little girl who doesn't have any hair. You old ant with all the hair should go and stay aside. Kiana looked at Charlotte Lingling proudly, and the words she said were tantamount to great lethality. You little girl. Charlotte Lingling's face distorted with anger. Do you want to fight? Miss Ben accompanies you. Kiana let go of Arthur and jumped lightly, stepping into the air. The armor on his body changed as it ascended, and a pair of sacred wings spread out behind his back. Light wings unfold. Aiming at Charlotte Lingling, countless gamma rays spread outward from the wings behind her. But no matter how you fly, the target of the attack is one thing, Charlotte Lingling. You. Perhaps she didn't expect Kiana's attack to be so swift. Charlotte Lingling's face changed, and she immediately launched a defense. Boom, boom. Dense explosions exploded on the deck. Boom. A large hole was blasted out of the deck, and Charlotte Lingling fell straight down. After the explosion, Charlotte Lingling crawled out of the big cave and heard Kiana's voice on the other side. If you want to continue, Miss Ben will accompany you to the end. Okay. Let me teach you a good lesson today. Enough. Just when Charlotte Lingling wanted to make a move, Arthur snorted coldly. Charlotte, if you're here to fight, we'll be with you to the end. And if you're here to talk to me and I'll cooperate, there's no need to talk about it. It's impossible. Arthur looked at Charlotte Lingling on the other side, not only amazed by her defense. He withstood Kiana's attack with his body, but he looked very embarrassed, and he didn't suffer any obvious damage on his body. Arthur's words brought Charlotte Lingling to her senses from her anger. Looking at Rita and May next to Arthur, everyone had a malicious look on their faces. Charlotte Lingling is very clear about the strength of these 2 people. Heroes don't suffer immediate losses. I thought that with my appearance, I could let Arthur cooperate with her, but I didn't expect it. I remember today's events, Arthur. Charlotte Lingling left the boat after a cruel remark. Valkyries will all appear. Chapter 71. It's a shame that I left like this. Yes, it's a bit of a pity. Seeing Charlotte Lingling leave, Rita and May said a word alone. There was a look of regret in his tone. Charlotte Lingling should be glad that she knows the times, if she really dares to do it. I'm afraid Rita and May, you don't mind the 2 of them joining forces to teach her a lesson. Dare to say such things in front of them. Is it really as if they don't exist? Captain, did you have any thoughts about letting her stay? Rita's scrutinizing gaze fell on Arthur, and her shrewd eyes seemed to be able to perceive people's hearts. As long as the slightest flaw is revealed, it can be keenly captured. Rita's words also aroused the interest of Kiana and May, and they looked straight at each other. Nope, at this time, there should be no hesitation and categorical determination. The three of them stared at Arthur for a moment, then looked at each other and nodded in satisfaction. For your sake, Captain, we have decided to fulfill one of your requests. Is it okay to ask for anything? Arthur asked tentatively. If you want to share a bed, no one else will object, and Rita won't mind. Rita, who knows Arthur very well, knows what to say next just by looking at her expression. So, Arthur's eyes sparkled at May and Kiana. It's not impossible, it's just embarrassing, Kiana said with a twist. If the captain wants to, although Mei Yi's words were not finished, the meaning was already very obvious. Great. Ahem. Reserved. Arthur suppressed the excitement in his heart, but he couldn't be too anxious. What if he frightened the three of them? Captain Ben is going to prepare a candlelit dinner today. Although everyone is familiar with each other, it is still necessary to cultivate feelings. Candlelight dinner? As soon as she heard that there was something to eat, Kiana was the first to agree. But will you get fat at night? May is still very concerned about her figure. How do you get fat? After that, you can exercise and digest it all. Arthur winked at Mei Yi. I hate it, Captain. Just as Arthur and the three of them were about to return to the cabin, another sailboat approached them in the distance. Did the ant go and come back? Kiana looked puzzled. No, it's Shiki. Arthur stared over and saw the figure standing on the bow of the ship, and there were other people on the ship besides him. It seems that as soon as Ski left the Rocks Pirates, he took action and began to build up his own strength. Captain, did he come to us too? Whatever he doesn't have. There's no time for him to talk nonsense. The cold air on Arthur's body surged, and with a wave of his right hand, the water molecules in the air quickly froze. After doing all this, Arthur entered the cabin without looking back. AI-chan, turn on the stealth mode. If something comes close to self-expulsion, I don't want anyone to disturb us tonight. Okay, Captain, AI-chan received. The voice of AI's clothes came out of the communicator, and at the same time, the Huberian sailing on the sea gradually disappeared. As Arthur had guessed, as soon as Ski left the Rocks Pirates, he recruited his own troops and formed a new group of pirates. And Arthur's strength he knows very well. Cooperating with a strong man can make his power stronger, and I believe that no one will refuse. So while recruiting the younger brother, he looked for Arthur's figure by the way, and finally found out by him on this day. So immediately turned the rudder and drove over. Shiki believes that he is full of sincere invitation, and the Arthur pirates will have to give him some face. But unexpectedly, when he was about to get closer, Shiki suddenly noticed that something was wrong. The temperature around me dropped a lot in an instant, and there was ice ballast floating in front of me. Captain Ski up. Suddenly, a crew member screamed, and everyone couldn't help but look up. Dozens of meters above their heads, an ice hockey ball was slowly spinning. As it rotates, the surrounding ice ballast converges towards the puck of the ice. Bigger and bigger. And the good thing is that this puck is right above their heads. When the puck grew to the size of their ship, it fell with a bang. Arthur, I am at odds with you. Feeling the power of the impact, Shiki roared angrily and jumped to his feet, trying to use the power of the fruit to levitate the huge ice ball. However, just after contact, before the ability was activated, Shiki suddenly found that in the center of this huge ice hockey, a ball of purple lightning was brewing. Rumble. The lightning spread outward, quickly enveloping the entire ice ball, and also electrocuted Shiki and fell from the sky. Along with Shiki's fall, there was also the huge ice ball. Rumble. The entire huge sailing ship was smashed into the sea. Due to the impact of gravity, a whirlpool gradually formed on the calm sea, and it took a long time to subside. On the sea, many people rely on the wreckage of their sailboats to keep them from sinking into the water. And among these dozens of people, there are two people supporting Shurji, who is already unconscious. Each dim sum has a different taste, and when the three are mixed together, the taste is even more delicious. On this day, Arthur can be said to be a real addiction to being the emperor. You don't have to do anything yourself. Just clean him up. How's it going, Captain? Are you sleeping comfortably? When I woke up again, it was already 3 days old, and when I opened my eyes, I saw Rita smiling at herself. It's been a long time since I've slept so comfortably. Glanced at May and Kiana, who were still asleep. Rita, you still wake up so early, in fact. It's okay to sleep once in a while. You don't have to be so demanding of yourself. For Rita's seriousness, Arthur is sometimes helpless. That's what a maid is supposed to do, Captain, and she's already preparing lunch, but don't stay in bed anymore. The slender fingers tapped the tip of Arthur's nose lightly, and Rita smiled and turned away. Okay, get up. Arthur was already careful, but he still woke up the two of them from their sleep. A lunch was served in a pleasant atmosphere. Captain, where are we going next? After asking questions, Rita was able to start her preparations. Arthur drank the juice next to him in one gulp and said lightly, "How about we build a nation?" Honkai 2's words. I deliberately downloaded the game to play in order to write Honkai, but it's only played one chapter. I only know a little about Janna and Finale, but I don't know too much. Their combat power is too powerful to destroy the existence of planets, and they will not appear at the moment. If there is a good name of the country, please leave a message in the comment area. Chapter 72. How about we build a nation? Arthur's faint words surprised everyone. In fact, Arthur had thought about this a long time ago. It's just that Lox was doing nonsense on the sea at that time, and the situation was relatively turbulent, so he put it aside for the time being. And now that the Rock's pirates have been disbanded and the sea has returned to a relatively peaceful state, all forces are recuperating, and it is a good time for development. Captain, is that country you're talking about the country that May had in mind? May asked with some uncertainty. I think so. Arthur nodded. It's not impossible to build a nation. Rita's eyes lit up, and she was already thinking to herself about what it would take to build a nation. Captain, I'm going to be king. Kiana raised her hands with an excited expression on her face. Just thinking about it. Oh, king is very imposing. You haven't skimmed the 8 characters yet, and your appetite is really not small. Looking at Kiana, who was full of interest, Arthur shook his head speechlessly. If the captain really wants to build a country, we have to find a small island, but I don't know how much area the captain wants to manage. And population is also an issue. It's all going to be the captain's will. Rita had already thought of a way to do it right away. Well, Rita, you're really comprehensive, so let's find our base first. Just do it, Arthur immediately said to Ai. Ai-chan, looking for a scenic, uninhabited island. Alas, Captain, your requirements are really high. Ai couldn't help but complain. Uninhabited islands and beautiful scenery. There are not many such islands, even on the sea. Don't you have faith in yourself? Arthur raised his eyebrows and said lightly, Cut, Captain, do you think Ai-chan is a 3-year-old child? But this kind of task is more challenging, and everything is wrapped up in Ai-chan. Airplane mode activated. Hubelian, who was sailing through the sea, became faster and faster, gradually deformed, and finally flew into the sky. The biodetection device is activated. The geoanalysis device is activated. Turning the Hubelian detection range to the maximum, AI began to work in earnest. In the living room, Arthur told him what he had originally envisioned and asked everyone to add to it. So the captain is planning to gather some masters to expand his power? Rita nodded. She naturally understood the benefits of having a powerful force. Yes, now, it is estimated that other people have also started their own actions, and we naturally need to recruit some younger brothers. After all, you don't have to do anything yourself. Arthur was right. Whether it was Shiki or Charlotte Lingling or Edwin Kaido, each of them was forming their own faction. And now, Roger is also sailing for his own goals, and there are more and more people on board. Captain, is it enough to have us? Why do you have to find someone else? Kiana pouted, looking unhappy. Don't be jealous of everything. Every time you encounter an enemy, if you get hurt, I will be very distressed. Arthur patted Kiana's little head and said slowly. Kiana smiled, half squinting as she enjoyed Arthur's touch. A few days passed in a flash, and even with the speed and detection ability of Hyperion, it was difficult to find the island that Arthur was talking about. In general, small islands are inhabited by humans, and small islands without human habitation have a harsh environment. In the New World, the wind and clouds here are changing. One second the sky is clear, the next second is heavy rain. But in any weather, Hubrian has nothing to fear. Finally, IE's somewhat excited voice came from the communicator. Captain, you found the island you need. As soon as he finished speaking, a hologram appeared in front of Arthur. The whole of the island is hidden by the detection. There are no traces of human activity found on it. And, according to the detection, the 4 seasons are like spring, which is very much in line with your requirements, Captain. In front of him, various data on the hologram were marked, and Arthur nodded. In that case, let's land. Hubrian landed slowly in it, and Arthur's sight swept outward. Although IE is more carefully detected, it is still not as real as what I see. Well, yes, it's the ideal island, and there's a natural hot spring in the center of the island. So let's make it our stay. After deciding, Arthur waved his right hand, and the Titan mecha appeared and said after giving the order, Rita, Kiana, let's go around together and get acquainted with the terrain. Arthur was methodically going on his side, and on the other side, the Navy headquarters. After which battle with Locks, all but Carp were promoted in their positions. It's not that Carp won't be promoted to general. It's just that he refuses every time. To be promoted to general means to be driven by those celestial dragons, which Carp cannot accept. There is no way to do this. Nowadays, the Navy needs to replenish fresh blood. Are there any good seedlings in this audition? The Navy now lacks high-end combat power, and it must be replenished. There are 2 very talented navies who have brought them to the Navy headquarters, and they have performed very well and deserve serious training. Well, Zifa, you're in charge of teaching them. Understood. I also found one here, although he is relatively young, but he's also a rare talent who is calm. Let Zifa be in charge of teaching. After a short debriefing, Zifa took the 3 people waiting outside to the training ground. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Zifa, and I will be your teacher from now on. Zifa's gaze swept over everyone, and he nodded in satisfaction. Mr. Zifa, my name is Sakaski. Sakaski took a step forward, and his voice was loud. Mr. Zifa, my name is Policelino. The laziness on his body has subsided a little, but after introducing himself, he has returned to his original appearance. Kazan, with a cold breath all over his body, he spoke relatively neatly. The breath on you. It's really nostalgic. Zifa's mind conjured up the figure of Arthur. But compared to him, you're a firefly under the bright moon. Zifa's words made Kuzan's brow furrow slightly. Who is that person the teacher is talking about? When you are promoted to admiral, you may have a chance to meet him. There was a hint of melancholy in Zifa's tone. Chapter 73. The feeling of soaking in the natural hot spring is really different, and I feel that the fatigue of my body is going to disappear. In a steaming hot spring, Arthur squinted comfortably. Thanks to the efforts of the Titans, the surroundings have now completely changed. The trees were cut down to clear a large open space, and Arthur bought a manor house directly from the store to place on it. At the back of the manor is where the hot springs are located. It's really comfortable, Captain. I don't even want to move when I'm comfortable. Kiana lay on the pebbles at the edge of the hot spring, looking as lazy as a kitten. It is said that soaking in hot springs has the effect of beautifying your face, so you can take a dip if you have nothing to do. Natural hot springs are usually found near volcanoes, and Arthur has done a special inspection to be on the safe side. Underneath the island, there's indeed a stream of magma passing through, but cannot form a volcanic eruption, which is consistent with AI's calculations. There are no worries, so you can completely put your mind at ease. Captain, the next base is there. What kind of people are you going to gather? Rita's hand swept across the water in front of her, and under the effect of the hot spring, the whole person looked delicate. This is not in a hurry. It is better to lack than to abuse. If you want to find it, you can find a powerful one. Moreover, this small island has just been developed, and my ideal is to make it a bustling city, a trade center, and I will leave this to you, Rita, plan it. Since he wanted to do it, Arthur naturally had to do his best. Okay, Captain, Rita will try. Rita nodded, taking the matter to heart. I wonder what has become of the outside now. Arthur leaned his back against the cobblestones behind him, looking up at the sky. AI-chan knows that. Put it in the communicator next to it. Ai's voice came out, and then said with some envy, "That's great. You can all soak in the hot springs. If you want a bubble, I can throw the communicator in." Arthur smiled and shook his head. "Okay, let's talk about it. You can get the news. It's really a cold, Captain, and I don't know how to feel sorry for others." Muttering a sentence in her mouth, AI began to get down to business. Since the 368 satellites launched by the previous captain are currently in good operation, I know a little bit about the situation on the sea. Arthur understood the importance of being information. So after consulting with AI, he conducted a test and found that the idea could be implemented. So he immediately took action. Satellites purchased from the shop that could be disguised as clouds are launched into the sky, and the 368 satellites consume most of the wealth obtained from the Valley of the Gods. However, this small number of satellites is not enough to summarize the sea as a whole. So a few areas of focus have been selected. For example, around this small island, the naval headquarters, and other places. Arthur decided to make this an important goal, and his eyes were all over the sea. I believe that no one would have thought that the white clouds floating in the sky are the eyes that monitor them. And now it quickly came in handy. Ai said, a light curtain ejected out, and pictures appeared in it. In the picture, you can see the specific deployment of troops in the Navy headquarters, which can be said to be very frequent. And the sea is full of pirates who are at war. Captain, the few people you asked me to focus on now have their own forces. With the words of love clothes, pictures flashed in front of me. Charlotte Lingling, Edward, Kaido, Shiki, and familiar faces that have often appeared in the sea lately. Kazan, Sakaski, Polyusolino. Dai. On top of a huge mountain, Shiki stood on it and laughed wildly. Used the power of the fruit to levitate the entire mountain peak without any bells and whistles, and directly rush towards the enemy base camp. Long live Captain Ski. Kill them. When the pirates above saw this scene, they jumped up excitedly one by one and cheered loudly. Oh my God, what the hell is this? And on a small island not far away, here is the lair of a pirate. Seeing the huge mountain peaks floating in the distance, everyone's faces showed a look of horror. The mountain peaks floated above the island, and the power was lifted, and the huge mountain peaks fell from the sky like meteorites. Rumble. In just this moment, the previously huge pirate group has already suffered countless casualties. Captain Ski has led the way, brothers. The surrounding pirates immediately poured into the island, and it can be said that this is a battle with no suspense. On the other side, Charlotte Lingling's team is also getting bigger and bigger. With a machete in his hand, he swung forward, and the huge sailboat in front of him split in two. The remaining remnants of power are left to their men to deal with. These pirates are brutal. See what's on the screen. Kiana was a little unbearable. This is the law of survival of the sea, the law of the jungle. We can soak in the hot springs here at the moment, just because we are strong enough. Captain, who knows, if she encounters an enemy, Miss Ben will never show mercy. Kiana stood up directly, made a fist gesture, and when she felt Arthur's gaze, she hurriedly squatted down again. This guy's pretty mild in comparison. The person May was pointing at was none other than Edward. With the power of the shock fruit, Edward roamed the seas unhindered. This is even if you encounter the enemy and defeat it. There's no killer. Would you like to be my son? This phrase has been coming out of Edward's mouth a lot lately, and his team has grown larger, slowly moving towards the Big Mac mode. On the other side, Kaido's strength has increased by leaps and bounds after taking the devil fruit. But even so, he has still been captured by the Navy many times. Arthur had seen it 3 times, and after each appearance, Kaido's power will increase again, and his vitality should not be underestimated. Captain Discovery, you're more focused on these navies than these pirates? Mei's finger pointed at the 3 navies who were fighting the pirates. The 3 of them are terrible. Love sauce. Record more of their black history, and it will be useful in the future. Okay, Captain, AI-chan likes to do this kind of thing the most. The sound of the negative measurement came out of the communicator. As time passed, the landscape of the new world changed. Charlotte Lingling, Shiki, Roger, Edward, Kaido, etc., who are often active on the sea, are all sea pirates who dominate one side. And the most intuitive manifestation is that under their leadership, the chaotic situation in the new world has gradually improved. And the performance of the three of them, the green pheasant, the yellow ape, and the red dog, is also more and more eye-catching on the sea, and they are all promoted to rear admirals. At the same time, Arthur's Island was finally rebuilt during this time. Arthur's perfect planning has resulted in a modern metropolis with towering buildings like works of art. And in the center of the island, in a room in Arthur's manor, stands a supercomputer. This computer is the center of the island, and AI can control it directly. Between the towers, Titan mechs are on patrol. The island is surrounded by strong defenses. In order to accomplish all this, Arthur's wealth was completely depleted. Hyperion go. Having been idle for a long time, Hyperion set sail again, not at all worried about the deserted island behind him. These two belong to the transition, so the plot will move forward quickly. Stigmata characters don't summon because there are too many to control. Chapter 74, where there is light, there is darkness. No matter how righteous the Navy headquarters is, it is its mission to eliminate pirates and maintain order on the sea. But in other places, there will always be corrupt things. And it's a serious phenomenon. At this moment in the North Sea, Hyperion has changed its appearance and came here. Using biomimetic technology, it looks like an ordinary sailboat from the outside. Captain, I didn't expect it to be so fun here, and the guys who often claim to be bounty hunters attack us. But they're too weak to fight. Today's North Sea can be called a sea of sin, with rampant pirates, corrupt navies, and even Germa guys selling war everywhere. The whole sea was in chaos. However, such an environment is just right for Kiana, who is not willing to be lonely. When a bounty hunter accidentally saw the faces of Arthur and his party, he immediately rushed up with a scream. The maximum amount is 100 million Baileys, which is just the target for those powerful bounty hunters. However, such an opponent was eliminated by Kiana's 3-5 split. Although this is not a new world, there are powerful pirates. Kiana, don't be too careless. In order to prevent Kiana from being proud, Arthur gave a command. Knowing the captain, don't worry. Besides, aren't you still there? Kiana has 100% trust in Arthur, and with the captain by his side, he is not afraid of anything. Arthur smiled and touched Kiana's head, and suddenly noticed a warship in the distance heading this way. There is no intention of evading them. It seems to be aimed at them. Is it the enemy? Kiana's eyes lit up, and her eager body was held down by Arthur. Wait a while and see how it goes. Under normal circumstances, when the Navy encounters pirates, it will open fire when it is within range, and it is rare for this to get so close. Soon, the warship stopped in front of Hyperion. It looks familiar. You're from another sea? Major John glanced at Arthur and his party with a slanted glance, not salty or nonchalant. Yes, what's the matter? The attitude of the opposite navy made Arthur's brow furrow. Don't you know that you need to pay tolls to sail in the North Sea? Major John glanced at Arthur with some dissatisfaction. Why was that young man so unreasonable? And not only do you have to pay tolls, but you don't have any guards to look at, so you have to pay protection fees so that your safety in the North Sea can be guaranteed. It's not much, just pay 1 million Bailey per person. 1 million Baileys is already a huge wealth for ordinary people. It's the first time I've heard that the Navy is going to collect protection money in tolls. Is this blackmail? Knowing the Navy's intentions, Arthur suddenly laughed. Presumptuous. What blackmail? Doesn't the Navy need money to use manpower and material resources? Are we going to have to pay for all this money ourselves? Hurry up, don't waste time. Major John glared and yelled. Alas, if those people in the Navy headquarters knew that in the distant North Sea, these Navy were this virtue and did not know how sad it would be. Arthur shook his head helplessly. Kiana, is over to you. Arthur didn't want to waste any more time with these people. Okay, Captain. Kiana landed on the opposite warship with a slight leap, and it was only then that the Navy reacted. You brought it upon yourself, shoot. Bang, bang, bang. The corners of Kiana's mouth hooked up a smile, and her body rushed out instantly. Bang, bang, bang. A couple of side kicks knocked all those navies to the ground. Major John bared his teeth in pain from the blow to his body, and when he looked up, the muzzle of the black hole was pointed at him. Yes, there is something to say. We are the Navy, and if you dare to do anything to me, Rear Admiral Barron will not let you go. John, who was rampant in the North Sea, was still threatening at the moment. Navy, you deserve to call yourself a Navy. Don't make people laugh off their big teeth. Arthur stood on Hubelian and beckoned to Kiana. Now, take us to the naval branch. Kiana returned to Hyperion, and Major John heard Arthur's words. You say, you want to go to the Navy branch with me? John looked at Arthur in disbelief, as if he couldn't believe his ears. Yes, lead the way. John's surprised face was replaced by joy. It's really a bold person who dares to go to the naval branch with him. We can't deal with you now, and there are thousands of people in the naval branch now. Well, did they come along? Sailing some distance ahead, John asked. I've followed. Very well. Inform Major General Barron immediately, so that these people do not come back. Yes. At the same time, on a small island on the other side. Dover, it's been 2 days, and the Navy still hasn't given us any answer. Tory Bowl, the slug, looked at the young man in front of him with a look of respect. Barron's insatiable guy really doesn't take us seriously. Doflamingo clenched his fists, a look of anger on his face. Doflamingo's full name is Don Quixote Doflamingo. He was born in a family of draconians, the eldest son of the Don Quixote family, and originally enjoyed the privileges of Draco with his family. However, his father, Don Quixote Homing, one day advocated that the draconians and ordinary people were human beings and announced that he would give up the privilege of being a Draco and live like an ordinary family. So he left the holy land of Marijoya with a family of 4. After moving away from their hometown, the family relied on their original savings to buy property to survive. However, due to the loss of the family's former privileges and the fact that the people who had been persecuted by the draconians in the past vented their grievances on the family, Doflamingo and his father and brother Don Quixote Rosindi, Corazon, were all stared down on and brutally tortured. His father tried to ask Marijoya's native draconians for help and return to his hometown, but was isolated as a heretic. Affected by this incident, the whole family lived a poor life ever since, and his mother died of illness when he was 8 years old because of the poor living environment. Doflamingo believed that it all stemmed from his father's stupid mistakes. So at the age of 10, despite Rosinandi's pleadings, he resolutely shot his father at gunpoint in front of the ladder and returned to Marijoya with the ladder's head, but because the rest of the draconians in his hometown refused to accept him as a traitor again. Enraged, Doflamingo vows to turn the world of the draconians upside down. After leaving Maricoa, Doflamingo met Toripol, Pica, Diamanti, and Virgo. The 4 men gave Doflamingo the fruit of the thread and made Doflamingo their king. Since then, the underworld has been active with a character named Joker. And in this sinful North Sea, Doflamingo has a trading relationship with many pirates, including the Navy. But just recently, his trade partner, Major General Barron, has grown in appetite. The last time the goods were not sent, they were still asking them for money. This pushed Doflamingo's patience to the limit. Yes, go to the Navy branch. Doflamingo looked up, an icy glow emanating from his sunglasses-wearing pupils. Chapter 75, what do you say? Anyone dares to be so bold. In the naval branch, Barron's eyes widened in shock when he heard John's report. Yes, Rear Admiral Barron, the people who came didn't take you seriously at all and threatened to come to our naval branch to settle accounts with you. John said something so ugly that flames erupted in Barron's eyes. Okay, when are you coming back? Hearing Barron's tone, John knew he had accomplished his goal, so he said honestly, we'll be back in half an hour. Putting down the phone bug in his hand, Barron walked outside the door and shouted. All Navy gathered. The anger in his tone could be heard clearly by anyone. Captain, the warship in front of you deliberately slows down. I'm afraid there is no other purpose. They have also sat on warships, but they naturally know the speed of normal sailing, and the one in front is much slower. It's okay. It's just a stall for time so that the people in the Navy branch can prepare. This kind of careful thinking, Arthur can see through at a glance. Captain, how far are we going to go? May he asked with a slight tilt. Do you still need to talk about this kind of thing? Since you dare to provoke us, you will naturally beat them down. Kiana waved her right hand cleanly. It's okay, just do whatever you want. If the Navy goes too far, we can go even further than they do. Arthur's words made the three nod. May understood, Captain. Following the warship and sailing slowly, Arthur and his party did not seem to be so boring, talking, flirting, and time passed quite quickly. Soon, the silhouette of the naval branch at the front emerged. Sure enough, these navies are quite well prepared. From afar, Arthur could see the Navy standing outside in 2 rows. These navies have a cannon next to them. Major General Baron, we can already see them. A Navy officer reports with a phone in his hand. When they reach the range, they immediately open fire and bury them at the bottom of the sea. Rear Admiral Barron's words came out of the phone bug, startling the Admiral. But Colonel John, the waste thing brought everyone else to the door. If they don't die, it's their fate. Before the Navy could finish speaking, Barron was suddenly interrupted. Yes, Major General Barron put down the phone bug in his hand, looked at the approaching warship, and there was a hint of sympathy in his eyes. Slowly, both ships came into range. All of them, ignition, and in the middle of the sea, on the deck of a warship, John laughed when he saw the Navy on the shoreline. So many navies, so many cannons. See how you are still rampant? In his mind, he was fantasizing about the people behind him holding his head and admitting his mistakes, and suddenly realized that something was wrong in front of him. Wait, why did you light the fire? We haven't come ashore yet. Bang, bang, bang. However, a roar drowned out John's words. Dozens of swarthy cannonballs streaked across the sky like meteors and fell towards them. John's pupils slowly dilated, a look of despair. These navies even attacked their own people. Arthur shook his head at the Navy's approach. Ai-chan raised the shield. Arthur had no intention of stopping the shells. Okay, Captain. The voice of Ai was heard over the communicator, and Hyperion was gradually surrounded by a pale blue protective shield. The cannonball crossed a parabola and fell from the sky. Boom, boom. The sound of explosions was incessant. The warship in front was completely destroyed by a dense barrage of shells after holding out for a few seconds. Hyperion was also shrouded in the explosion of the cannonball, but such an explosion could not shake even the defensive shield. The sea poured in, and the warship gradually sank into the sea, leaving no shelter in front of it. How was it possible? How was this ship unscathed? Seeing the intact appearance of Hyperion, all the navies could not believe their eyes. They saw the shells hit the ships, but in the midst of the fire, the ships that should have been shattered came out intact. Preparations for the second round of launches. The commander gave the order again with a ghostly expression, but Arthur would not give him any more readiness to launch. Ai-chan, prepare for the attack. Captain, do you use the main gun? But don't. If you go down, this island is estimated to sink. Just use secondary artillery to get rid of these navies. Since it is a corrupt navy, then he must have a lot of collection, and Arthur plans to make fortune. If Hyperion's main cannon were to come and fire, I'm afraid everything would be reduced to nothingness. That's a pity. I wanted the captain to see the power of the main gun, Ai said, and bubble tubes on both sides of the hull extended outward. Whoosh! Lasers rained down on the Navy on the other side. What's that? The last color that remained in the eyes of the Navy was a dark blue, like emerald. Within the naval branch, Barron sat in his room, waiting for his debriefing, but the slowly approaching noise outside made his brow furrow. What the hell is going on out there? It doesn't look like a Navy at all. This sentence came out of Barron's mouth, and it was really full of irony. I wanted to endure it and pass, but it was getting more and more chaotic outside, and Barron couldn't sit still anymore. So he stood up and opened the door to scold. But as soon as he opened the door, a strong force came, and his body couldn't help but fly out upside down. Boom! He slammed into the wall behind him. His eyes were dark, and he was stunned for a moment. But after all, it is the Navy, and the physical fitness is still okay, and soon the sight in front of you will be restored. I saw several strangers standing in front of him, and a cold word came out of a man's mouth. If you want money or death, choose one yourself. Now or does Baron dare to say half a word? If he comes again, I'm afraid he will really be cold. Damn it. As he spoke, he crawled outside, but Baron felt a little suffocated by the scene outside. As far as the eye could see, all the Navy lay on the ground and groaned, and none of them could still stand up. Where did this come from? Baron's heart couldn't help but tremble, and he hurriedly led Arthur and his party to his treasure storage room. There's a lot of you. Several large boxes were piled up with various treasures, and Arthur took them all and looked at the price, a total of 130 million. Such wealth can indeed be called enough for a naval branch. At the same time, outside the naval branch, Doflamingo and his party also arrived just in time. What's going on here? Seeing the tragic situation outside the naval branch, everyone couldn't help but gasp. Who is so bold? Chapter 76, seeing that the man in front of him waved his hand, and the wealth he had accumulated for a long time disappeared, Baron's cheeks couldn't help twitching. Although it is not clear how he did it, the disappearance of his wealth is a real thing in front of him. Years of accumulation are now in vain, and it is impossible not to resent it in your heart. But when he thought of the attack he had suffered before, the power of that power made his heart tremble even now. In the end, after weighing it again and again, it was important to save his life, so he could only stand aside obediently. It's a little less, but it's better than nothing. Arthur's words made the corners of Baron's mouth twitch. This is Major General Baron, right? Arthur saw the rear admiral in front of him, burly, with a strong physique, and he looked even more majestic in the uniform of the Navy. Such a person made Arthur really unable to connect with the greedy Navy that he had imagined in his mind. Yes, I don't know what your lordship commands. Under the roof, Baron knew his place well, at least from the outside. Where did you get this box? Arthur pointed to a large gray box next to him, which was unremarkable, but the sign on it made Arthur pay special attention. If memory serves, this is a sign of a clown. This was obtained during the previous siege of pirates. Baron's face remained unchanged, and he opened his mouth to come, but his eyes were secretly looking at Arthur's face. No one should be allowed to know about his deal with the pirates, and if this matter is exposed, he is truly finished. Did you get it when you encircled the pirates? A meaningful smile appeared on Arthur's lips, but he didn't say anything more. This time the purpose can be said to have been achieved, although the harvest is relatively small. Let's go. Arthur led the way out of the room, followed by Rita and the others. Looking at the backs of a group of people leaving, Baron breathed a sigh of relief. At least this fate is saved. After a nostalgic glance at the empty room, Baron cursed in his heart and left unwillingly. However, as soon as he stepped out of the room and turned around, he found Arthur and his party standing there motionless. The expression on Baron's face quickly retracted, and he barely managed to squeeze out a smile and was about to step forward. However, he suddenly found that opposite Arthur, there was also a group of people he was familiar with. A member of the Don Quixote family, headed by Doflamingo, exactly his partner. This time it was really another village, and Baron was overjoyed. Baron, you should be clear about the purpose of my visit. Doflamingo was instantly alarmed when he saw Arthur. Along the way, all the navies were knocked to the ground, proving that the strength of those who broke into the naval branch was not weak. And there were 4 people on the opposite side, and each of them looked very strong. The few people next to Doflamingo were also on the defensive, and at this moment, Baron suddenly appeared. Hearing Doflamingo's words, Bardo's face changed, and he looked at Arthur cautiously and slowly moved to the opposite side. Arthur ignored this. Baron slowly moved to Doflamingo's side, and only then did he feel a little relieved. Of course, you just need to help me solve them, and I will give you 30% more of the goods this time. 30% is already a lot of wealth, and Baron has also made a lot of money this time. Seeing Doflamingo, his courage also became bigger, and he knew very well the strength of these people. Why should I help you? If you can't get the goods out today, then give me the money back. At the mention of money, Baron's face turned green. Money, it's gone. Baron really wanted to cry without tears, and his eyes gestured to Arthur's side. He took all the money from him. With Baron's gaze, Doflamingo's gaze was focused on Arthur again. Dover, I remember, they had a bounty. Tory Bull pulled out a stack of bounty orders out of nowhere, rummaged through them, and found Arthur and his party. It was still the original bounty order, because Arthur and they were all safe after that, and there was no news about them on the sea. As a result, except for the older generation of pirates and the high-ranking members of the Navy headquarters, everyone else's perception of Arthur only comes from bounties. The bounty is only 100 million Baileys. 100 million Bailey in the North Sea is already a relatively high bounty, but such a bounty is still not enough for Doflamingo. It turned out to be a pirate with a bounty of 100 million Bailey. No wonder the strength is so strong. Baron muttered to himself, but at this time, no one paid attention to him. Do you want 100 million Bailey's heads? Arthur finally spoke, staring at Doflamingo. It's very young, and at a young age, it has a kind of self-respecting momentum. I'm not interested in 100 million Bailey's heads. Just hand over the things of our Don Quixote family. Maybe we will have the opportunity to cooperate in the future. Now Doflamingo is in the development stage, and he doesn't want to make enemies everywhere unless he has to. That's why Baron is still here. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have been killed by Doflamingo. I'm afraid I won't be able to meet your request. Arthur spread his hands, his tone a little helpless. Wealth will be converted into corresponding value and absorbed by the system. It is easy to absorb, and it is impossible to take it out. Dover, let me teach Diamanti a lesson to this ignorant guy in front of me. Diamanti, one of the 4 top cadres of the Don Quixote family, codenamed Cube, leads the Don Quixote family's fighting group, a person who flutters fruit ability and a bannerman. Oomph. Why are you such an indigenous-looking guy that you dare to be unreasonable to our captain? Let Miss Ben teach you a good lesson. For such things as fighting, Kiana has always been obligatory. Taking a step forward, his hands on his waist, and the crisp voice echoed around, making Diamanti's face instantly gloomy. Wearing a frayed hat, 2 facial stripes on his face, and a red cape, he does look like a native tribe. But when these words came out of Kiana's mouth, he felt deeply hurt. Be careful, Kiana. For Kiana, Arthur is still very confident, but he still advises, don't worry, Captain, the battle will be settled soon. Kiana was not worried at all, smiled at Arthur and nodded, and looked at Diamanti in front of her again. The expression on her face retracted. Taking a step forward, the armor on his body changed. The black and white armor has undergone some big changes from before, and the most striking thing is Kiana's pupils. The left eye is a gentle blue, but the right eye is a cold gold. White-haired heterochromatic pupils, cute and handsome. SS-class combat armor, Sky Ranger. Chapter 77 Sky Ranger can allow Kiana to exert some of the power of a lawyer, and the way of fighting has also been changed, no longer a simple gunfight. During that time on the island, the character fragments were collected, allowing Kiana to be promoted from S rank to S rank. Don't think that changing your clothes can change your fate. After Diamanti finished speaking, his body squatted, and the ability was activated, and the hard ground began to flutter like a flag. What kind of ability is this? Kiana also has some understanding of devil fruits during this time, and each devil fruit has unique abilities. Arthur had already solemnly told Kiana about this, asking her not to be careless when she encountered someone with devil fruit abilities. Maybe a humble ability can make her capsize in the gutter. But Kiana smiled and didn't know if she had listened to it. The flag-like fluttering ground made Kiana's body a little unsteady on her feet, and her hands swayed back and forth. Seeing this scene, Diamanti showed a smile, and his right hand could not draw the Western sword and stab forward. Bullfightinglos. After turning the body of the Western sword into a light and fluttering form like cloth, the shape of the sword is constantly wound into a bullfighting posture. Later, it was restored to its original hardness, and a Western sword with a bullfight-like blade at the tip was formed. Then hold the blade of the sword and stab the target forward, using the tip of its hard horn to attack the opponent forward. The sharp tip and powerful impact will definitely not taste good if you get hit. Kiana, be careful, May shouted worriedly. Kiana's face froze, her body soared into the air, her left hand slapped on the head of the stab bull, and a short spear appeared in her right hand, aiming at Diamanti. Bang, bang, bang. 3 bullets burst through the air, but were stopped by the bullfighting cloak behind Diamanti. The cloak is made of steel by using its ability to flutter fruits, and although it is light and fluttering, it actually has the same hardness as steel. Oomph, this kind of attack can't hurt me at all. Diamante looked at the unscathed cloak and looked triumphantly at Kiana opposite. Really, a smile tugged at the corners of Kiana's lips as she raised her pistol to aim again. Boom! No matter how many times such an attack is, it will not be able to me seeing that Kiana actually shot again. Diamante pulled his right hand. The cloak behind him blocked in front of him and said words that he didn't care about. But halfway through the sentence, the bullet had already hit the cloak. This time, a small black hole emerges at the site of the bullet's impact. What? What is this? The moment the black hole appeared, the powerful tearing made Diamante's face change, and he immediately untied his cloak and stepped back. The ability was lifted, and the fluttering cloak immediately returned to its original form. But it was as hard as steel, and it was swallowed up under this black hole without leaving a trace. The black hole appeared for only 2 or 3 seconds, but the effect was truly shocking to everyone. What kind of ability is this? Diamante's eyes widened. A strong sense of crisis told him that if his body touched this black hole, there would be unbearable consequences.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.